I woke up in bed with my sworn enemy. His clothes were disheveled, his body marked with red bruises, and his eyes and brows still held traces of lingering passion. Shocked and furious, I pointed at him and shouted, "You treacherous minister, how dare you dishonor me? I followed every proper ritual for our marriage, 3 betrothal gifts, 6 formal engagements. Why wouldn't I dare?" He countered calmly. "Nonsense." I glared at him. "When did I ever marry you?" "Just recently," he said, his long eyes fixed on me. "While you were suffering from amnesia." Main text: Junqing and I were both rescued from the base of a cliff by herbalists. They said the cliff where we were found had seen 7 couples jump to their deaths in 3 years, making it a notorious sacred site for lovers' suicides. Now, he stood before me in flowing silk robes, his features breathtakingly beautiful, while I was clad in coarse cloth, my hands calloused from labor. This must be where some young nobleman eloped with a lowly servant girl, only to meet their end together. I believed this story wholeheartedly. Because the moment I saw Jun Qingyu's face, my heart began to race wildly, my temples throbbing violently. Something surged chaotically within my chest, my teeth ached in waves, and my eyes burned hot. If this wasn't true love, nothing else could explain it. Unlike me, Jun Qingyu, after regaining consciousness, silently felt for the jade pendant engraved with his name at his waist. We both lost our memories. But I still remembered the feeling of loving him, while he remembered nothing. I felt a little sad. Sadness aside, life must go on. 3 days ago, an earthquake struck, and falling rocks from the mountains blocked the official road into the city. Jun Qingyu and I, 2 people who couldn't find our way home, had no choice but to stay in the village. The old village chief saw I had some strength and sent the village doctor to take me up the mountain to gather herbs. I was out for half a day, didn't gather any herbs, but came back dragging a wild boar I'd killed barehanded. The boar's 2 tusks were cleanly snapped off, and not a single bone in its body was intact. Superhuman strength! The village chief stared in disbelief. Junqing's pair of exceptionally beautiful, piercing eyes fixed on my face, their meaning unclear. Catching his gaze, I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows, glare at him, and puff out my nostrils, utterly smug. "Impressive, huh? Isn't this enough to make you swoon?" Suddenly, I saw Junqing smile. This man. I blinked. This man. When he smiled, he was just too handsome. I found Jun Qingyu handsome, and it definitely wasn't just because love is blind. He was simply that beautiful, anyone could see it. That day, I returned from hunting and spotted someone perched on the wall, peering into the courtyard with a sly, rat-like expression. I recognized him as the notorious village ruffian, Zhang the scoundrel. "What are you doing?" I barked. Zhang the scoundrel jolted in fright. Before he could react, I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him to the ground. He grunted, then hobbled away as fast as he could, limping far out of sight. The door opened. Junqing stood there in plain robes, his long hair dripping, his eyes glistening. He'd just been bathing. "This can't go on," the village chief sighed. Junqing's looks are too tempting. First young girls were peeping at him, now even men. Hearing this, my anger flared. When did this start? Why didn't I know? "While you were out hunting," the village chief replied. "Everyone already knew about your planned elopement. But with no follow-through, it's no wonder others started harboring their own thoughts. Better to be wary than to be caught off guard." I understood the logic. The solution was simple. "Marry!" I blurted out without hesitation. "We marry immediately." I glanced at him, but he remained cold and indifferent. "You don't want to?" I asked tentatively, my heart pounding with anxiety. "It's not that I don't want to," he said, his frost-clear eyes meeting mine. "I merely fear you might act impulsively in your amnesia, only to regret it and betray me later." "How could that happen?" I pounded my chest in assurance. "Before my amnesia, I would have died for you. After it, I fell for you. This lifetime, I've chosen only you. Is that so?" He murmured, walking slowly before me and lowering his head slightly. His voice was as refined as wind and moonlight. "If that is so, then swear an oath." Say this, should you ever renege on today's vow, may mountains crumble, heavens collapse, nations perish, and blood flow for 1,000 miles. I was taken aback. We're just ordinary folk, insignificant as ants. Why drag the fate of nations into this? If you won't swear, my dear, then neither can I. His lips brushed my ear, his breath fragrant. If someone grows fond of me, covets me. And one day you're gone, who's to say they won't torment me, humiliate me? The image of a pure white trumpet flower being defiled was too dreadful to contemplate. Oath! 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 What's the big deal? Swearing is as easy as breathing. But I never imagined that this vow meant only for us would be transcribed into a formal document by him. Numbly, I sat on the wooden stool, one hand pressing the vermilion ink, the other pressing my fingerprint. Slap, slap, slap. 3 identical copies. One for him, one for the village chief, and the third, who knew where he'd stashed it. Even a bonded labor contract wasn't this formal. He drew a white silk handkerchief from his sleeve and gently wiped the crimson from my thumb. Then, under my gaze, he leaned down and kissed the tip of my finger. For the rest of our days, please bear with me. He murmured softly, his voice laced with a smile. Suddenly, a tingling sensation shot down my spine as I gazed upon his radiant face. My heartbeat quickened. Yes, I truly loved him. On the night of our wedding, I drank heavily. The alcohol rose, stirring an unbearable ache within me. He let me push him back to the edge of the bed, where he stumbled and sat down. I pressed forward, tearing off his sash and ruffling his robes. I sighed deeply against his neck, fragrant with orchid and musk. Pei Jingqing, you smell so good. The world spun. Everything blurred before my eyes as he flipped me onto my back. His fingers gripped my chin with measured pressure, his cool voice murmuring in my ear. Remember now? Dazed and disoriented, I couldn't make out his words. Guided by his touch, I lifted my head, seeking the source of that orchid musk scent. So soft. I licked his lips, laughing drunkenly. Darling, why are you so beautiful, so fragrant? Nilua, why are you so pure, so fiery? He chuckled softly in my ear. Memories of that night were hazy and fragmented. Only the memory of desire as vast as the sea, and endless, vivid colors. Jun Qing and I were famously the most loving couple in the surrounding villages. I was strong as an ox, capable of hunting and chopping wood. He was refined and scholarly, working as a teacher. Whenever people saw us, they'd always praise, the Jun family's wife is so blessed, her husband is a heavenly beauty. He was a true immortal. But when he turned demonic, he was a true demon too. Stop biting. I lifted my neck, pushing him away while panting, I have to go into town tomorrow to sell cloth. How can I face people like this? Jun Qing acted as if he hadn't heard, focused solely on gnawing flesh and sucking skin. Ever since our wedding night, I'd noticed he was cool and refined in public, but in bed, he was like a ravenous beast. And his tastes were quite peculiar. He adored biting necks. His lips and teeth never left my skin, even holding a sliver of flesh between them, while his cold, narrow eyes glowed with an indescribable ferocity. Greedy, yet reveling in it. Afterward, I lay on the bed, pressing my hand against the base of my neck, hissing through clenched teeth. Hurt? He turned to look at me, propping his cheek with one hand while the other slowly gathered my scattered strands of hair. I sighed, turning my head to meet his gaze. Ching Ching, if you're hungry, I'll slaughter a full-term hen tomorrow. You can gnaw on that long chicken neck to your heart's content. Bite until sparks fly, I won't mind. Why bother with me? His long fingers slowly moved to the patch of red marks, kneading and rubbing them. Jun Qing's voice was soft and hoarse, biting you isn't about hunger. Ah. Maybe it is. But most importantly, this is where a person's most vulnerable vital point lies. If it weren't me, but someone else, would you dare let them touch you, let alone bite you? Of course not. I let his fingertips brush freely across my neck, guardless. But we are husband and wife. In life, we share one bed, in death, we share one grave. Even when our souls enter the underworld, we'll cross the bridge of forgetfulness hand in hand. Do you know what matters most between husband and wife? Love? he asked. I shook my head, took his hand in mine, and smiled as I said, "It is trust, it is reliance, and above all, it is the bond of pledging one's life to the other. Only with these can love grow as steadfast as rock or as resilient as willow, unshakable and enduring. But if there is only love without trust, it is but a fleeting flutter of the heart, destined to vanish like smoke in an instant." I snuggled closer into his embrace, wrapping one arm around his slender waist, and smiled softly with half-closed eyes. "My dear, when I first saw you after losing my memory, I felt only a flutter of attraction. That must have been love. But after all these years of marriage, beyond love, there remains only trust." My heartfelt confession, however, did not elicit a similarly intimate response from him. Instead, he chuckled softly. "It's rare indeed to hear the word trust from your lips in my lifetime." His words left me utterly perplexed. Before I could ask further, he rolled over and pinned me down. His fingers still roamed my neck, but his gaze grew increasingly seductive. "Your trust came late, but better late than never. Such a fragile spot, even the most valiant warrior couldn't withstand a single fatal blow here. But if I ever wanted your life, I'd never strike at this place. I'd choose a different method, one that would make you die in ecstasy. This demon feeds on vitality, delighting in draining young to replenish yin. Night after night, he torments me until dawn. I fear my days are numbered. Jun Qingyu wears two faces. No matter how wildly he indulges his dark, seductive charms the night before, once clothed, he transforms into a cold, pure celestial being." I sat on the bed. "Extend your hand," he said. Slowly, I extended my arm, revealing distinct finger marks on my wrist. A warm, damp cloth wiped between each finger. Jun Qingyu murmured gently, "The other one." "Switch." After cleaning both hands, he told me to close my eyes. My face received a few gentle strokes too. Like a clothes hanger, he dressed me meticulously. Sitting on a wooden stool, I stared at my reflection in the rough copper mirror. My mind was completely elsewhere. "Still half asleep?" Jun Qingyu asked, combing through my long hair. "Good question." My expression remained blank as I replied, "I didn't sleep at all. To be precise, I did sleep, but the moment my eyes closed, before any dreams could come, dawn broke. Just one sleepless night. With your stamina, it's nothing." His smile was as soothing as spring breeze. "Well said." My stamina and strength were well documented. Not just a night of wrestling in bed, even charging into battle on horseback, wielding iron weapons, I suddenly furrowed my brow. Something flashed deep within my mind. "Did I pull too hard?" he asked. "No," I pressed a finger to my temple, frowning. "It's just. I think I remembered something just now." Vague and indistinct, it felt like I'd truly seen the battlefield, truly heard the bugle call. Ouch! I clutched my head, grimacing. "This time it really hurts." "Sorry," he softened his movements, his voice as harmless as water. "What did you remember? Tell me." "Nothing much, just a momentary lapse." I tilted my head, muttering to myself, maybe my memory is coming back. "Speaking of which, we've been amnesiacs for so long, have you remembered anything?" "Nothing," he replied softly. "That's okay." I smiled brightly at his reflection in the mirror. Let's treat our past as a previous life. Though we never crossed the bridge of no return or drank Mangpo's soup, we've already shared 2 lifetimes of love. Just if, we ever remember, wouldn't that make it 3 lifetimes, an unforgettable bond? My words drew a faint smile from Jun Qingyu. His long fingers gently gathered my hair into a ponytail. Neat and crisp. I shook my head, the long tail sweeping past my waist. Jun Qingyu watched me in the mirror, his eyes brimming with tenderness. After eating the porridge he cooked, I carried the silk cloth back and forth to load onto the donkey cart. Once the official road into town was passable, village donkey carts made the journey every 3 days. Households with goods to sell or items to buy could hitch a ride on this cart. After loading the silk cloth, I called toward the gate, "Ching Ching, I'm heading into town." "Wait." He walked out slowly, handing me a small cloth bag, inside are pastries and ham. "Eat them if you get hungry." The bamboo tube holds boiling water cooled this morning, and there's a clean handkerchief too. I tucked them away happily. Come back soon, he said, smiling at me. I'll be waiting at home. Got it. I flashed my little white teeth at him. Sitting on the donkey cart, I kept looking back and waving. Only when I couldn't see him anymore did I turn around and sit properly. I've never seen a couple like you two in all my life, so lovey-dovey you practically stick together like glue. Auntie Zhao, riding with us, covered her mouth and giggled. Last time I saw you coming down the mountain, you were carrying a huge bouquet of wildflowers. Was that for your husband? I scratched my head and chuckled. Driver brotherly clicked his tongue. Men weaving cloth and cooking at home, women hunting and trading outside. You ladies handle all the public-facing work. At this remark, both Mrs. Zhao and I turned pale. Unlike me, Mrs. Zhao's husband had been injured years ago, leaving him with a lame leg. Now he worked as a carpenter at home, unable to travel far. I replied calmly, smiling, being out in the world is a skill in itself. Running a household? We women can handle it. Men couldn't manage it even if they wanted to. The Zhao family woman retorted coldly, what's so special about running a household? If the imperial princess were still alive, the dragon throne in the capital would belong to a woman. The moment she uttered those 3 words, crown princess, a sharp pain shot through my head. A roaring tinnitus echoed incessantly, repeating crown princess. If the crown princess truly held the mandate of heaven, she wouldn't have been impeached and executed. It proves women simply cannot bear the weight of the empire. Bullshit! Those treacherous ministers who impeached the crown princess will face divine retribution sooner or later. Besides, with the imperial princess gone, the 3rd princess will ascend the throne sooner or later. Women are short-sighted. Do you know that the 4th prince is the most popular figure in the imperial capital right now? What about the 4th prince? The 3rd princess is like the crown princess, both are legitimate daughters and the eldest sisters. Plus, the 3rd princess has General He supporting her. But the 4th prince has the chancellor backing him. The chancellor comes from a prestigious aristocratic family. How can General He compare? Lady June, tell me, who do you think will ascend the throne? Lady June. Lady June? I snapped back to reality, bewildered. What? Who do you think will ascend the throne, the 3rd princess or the 4th prince? Mrs. Zhao demanded, eyes wide. I let out a soft ah, my thoughts still unfocused. The one who should inherit the throne is Her Highness the Crown Princess. Ha! Brotherly burst out laughing. The Zhao family lady was speechless. The cloth merchants in the city knew me well. Your husband is a master weaver. The feel of this silk is far superior to any other merchant's. The shopkeeper praised generously. I beamed with pride, of course. My dear excels at everything he does, truly exceptional. The shopkeeper glanced around. Seeing no one else nearby, he whispered, could you tell me how he weaves such exquisite cloth? I chuckled. No. The shopkeeper sighed. The cloth was woven so well not only because Jun Qingyan wanted to design a water-powered loom that wove by itself, but also because the silkworm cocoons were raised exceptionally well. As for why the silkworms thrived, that was entirely my doing. While ordinary people could only pluck the dense leaves at the bottom of the mulberry trees, I could leap high and easily reach the tender leaves at the very top. The first time I discovered this ability, I was utterly shocked. Ching Ching, I can fly! Gripping Jun Qingyu's sleeve, my face drained white. Like. Whoosh! I'm flying! At that moment, Jun Qingyu was learning to cook, his entire focus on the water and rice. Compared to my panic, he remained calm and composed. So what if you can fly? Fly. I mean, fly. A person. A person can fly. My eyes widened. I'm human, and I can fly. After confirming the water-to-rice ratio was correct, he placed the lid on the pot and turned to look at me. I immediately flailed my arms, patting, I can fly. He laughed. Cupping his fist to his lips, he let out several unrestrained chuckles. What was so funny about this? This was clearly terrifying and bizarre. You don't believe me, do you? I blurted out. Come on, follow me outside. I'll fly for you. Not necessary, he said, grabbing my arm with one hand while plucking a small mulberry leaf from my hair with the other. He smiled. I know you can fly. Then, when it comes to lightness skills, you're a supreme master. Lightness skills. I murmured, frowning again. After a moment, I clapped my hands. I get it. Get what? He asked. I looked at him with solemn seriousness. I'm not your lowly maid. No lowly maid can fly. I'm actually your family's secret guard. That was absolutely certain. He blinked, sighed, then broke into a radiant smile. Accept the truth. This wasn't some young nobleman eloping with his lowly maid, it was a young nobleman and his martial arts-trained bodyguard sharing life and death. Here's the payment for the silk. And here's an extra 20 coins. The shopkeeper handed over a string of copper coins. Why the extra 20 coins? I asked, puzzled. Naturally, the silk is excellent. From now on, when you buy silk, give it to me and no one else. Also, the shopkeeper smiled. Winter is approaching. You've sold quite a few furs before, so I imagine you're quite skilled at hunting. I hear there are silver foxes in the mountains. If you manage to hunt one, would you bring it to me? We can discuss the price. A silver fox. My eyes lit up. If I do catch one, could your shop make a cloak from it? Of course we could. Satisfied with his answer, I returned the extra coins. No need to pay extra for the silk. As for the fox fur, I might trouble you with that too. Junqing was frail. Whenever it rained, he'd cough incessantly, and low-grade fevers would linger for days. We called in a doctor. The physician said he had lived in an extremely cold and damp place in his youth, leaving him with an innate aversion to cold and dampness. His meridians and pulse were also considerably weaker than those of others. He was truly a delicate flower of the greenhouse. I had been worrying about how to care for him once winter arrived. Perhaps with a fox fur coat, he might feel more comfortable. Leaving the cloth shop, I strolled leisurely along the street, pondering what to buy for Chingching. As I browsed incense sachets at a stall, an unusual commotion suddenly reached my ears. Uniform, orderly running, heavy footsteps, figures clad in armor. I glanced toward the end of the street. The crowd stirred, yet nothing seemed amiss. Moments later, people scattered in a clamor as a marching squad jogged past. The leader bellowed incessantly, "Noble personage enters the city. All non-essential personnel, clear both sides." Shouting as they went, they pushed people aside. I was still undecided between a blue and a silver sachets, so I stepped to the side, lowering my head to examine the patterns and embroidery. Just then, a gilded carriage rolled slowly into view. "Kneel quickly!" The vendor pulled me down to kneel behind the stall. The carriage was immense, draped in flowing veils that faintly revealed a woman seated within. As it passed by me, a gust of wind lifted a corner of the curtain. A flash of emerald green met my eyes. My eyesight was keen. That single glance was enough to recognize it, a jade pendant. Its color and shape were identical to the one belonging to Junqing, not a single detail differed. In that fleeting glimpse, I even clearly saw the engraved characters on the jade. Junqing Yu. I craned my neck to watch the carriage disappear into the distance. Just as I hesitated to stand, another carriage approached from behind. Unlike the gilded one before, this carriage was entirely vermilion. Within the crimson gauze, a man leaned lazily against the wall. There was no wind at that moment, and the curtain didn't stir even as the carriage departed. I wanted to find out who these two noblemen were, but none of the villagers knew, and the soldiers were tight-lipped. Sitting on the donkey cart back to the village, I asked Mrs. Zhao and Brother Li. They only replied, that display was terrifying, and their pomp surpassed even the prefect's. My mind heavy with thoughts, I entered the village. I leaped off the cart, paid the fare, and jogged straight to the schoolhouse. Inside, the children sat stiffly upright, swaying their heads as they recited the three-character classic. Seated on the platform, Junqing wore plain white cloth robes. One hand propped his cheek, lashes lowered, while the other idly turned pages. Outside, he spoke little but never harshly. His smile warmed like spring breeze, yet his unsmiling face held frosty coldness. The children feared him most. I picked up a small pebble and aimed it precisely through the window. It landed precisely 3 inches from his shoes. He looked up at me, and I flashed a wide grin. He smiled back. Closing his book, he rose and addressed the students. Class dismissed for today. Return home. Only upon hearing this did the children dare shed their restraint, scattering like chicks, each dashing off at breakneck speed. I waited for him at the door. The little chicks, upon seeing me, bowed properly. Greetings, master's wife. May you be well. I waved my hand. Go home now, children. Be careful on your way. Only after the children had all left did Junqing and Kai slowly step out. Like those children, he gave me a faint smile. Greetings, madam. May you be well. This man was no child. His striking features drew near as he whispered softly in my ear. I froze instantly. My spine tingled, my face flushed. Unlike the earlier, indescribable excitement, this was pure, gentle fluttering, less intense, yet deeply comforting. I brought you something back. I quickly held up a long string of items, listing them like a waiter: Zibao Zhai's Zonzi, Daxing's dried fruits, Tine Wage's roast goose, Qingzhu Xian's osmanthus wine. So many? I'm afraid I won't be able to finish them all, he laughed. If you can't finish them, just take your time. I shrugged it off, took his hand, and led him outside. We've got all the time in the world. It's not like you have to finish it all today. Fingers intertwined, our steps in perfect unison. On the way home, I hesitated several times, wondering if I should tell him. It wasn't until he went to cook dinner that I couldn't hold back any longer and blurted out, Qingqing, have you ever considered that perhaps your real name isn't Jun Qingyu? The knife clanged. Startled, I grabbed his fingers. How careless! A thin streak of blood traced his pale, slender fingers. It's fine, he said, pulling out a handkerchief to leisurely wipe the blood from his fingertips. Why would you think that? I snatched the handkerchief, tenderly wiping and bandaging his cut while recounting what I'd seen today. I always thought Jun Qingyu was a name, but it turns out it's engraved on a jade pendant. And that pendant is probably mass-produced. I sighed as I finished, then suddenly frowned. Or maybe it's not mass-produced, maybe it's some kind of exclusive item. Qing. Hey, tell me, could that woman in the carriage have any connection to you? That woman has no connection to me, he said flatly. But you've lost your memory, how can you be sure? I asked without thinking. He slowly lifted his eyes to meet mine. Or, do you wish there were a connection? That question. If there were a connection, it would surely be as clan members, siblings, or perhaps. Whoa! I snapped back to reality. Besides relatives, someone wearing a pair of jade pendants could also be a spouse. Following that train of thought, I dared not think it through. I met his gaze and swallowed slowly, deliberately. This trouble was bound to be big. Regardless, that woman and I have no connection to anyone but you. The jade pendants? Pure coincidence. Nothing more. My name, my status, none of it matters. And besides... He tilted his head, kissing my cheek, then biting my neck. Besides, we are husband and wife now. An unshakable fact. The bite on my neck was hard enough to make me gasp. He licked the tooth marks, his soft voice laced with sticky sweetness. We are husband and wife. Through 3 lifetimes, countless lifetimes, we will always be husband and wife. Perhaps driven by unease, he was unusually fierce that night. Every inch of my body, every spot he could reach, was taken care of. My heart was heavy, my sleep deep. I slept like the dead. Only when I rolled over and found an empty embrace did I jolt awake. No one beside the bed. Beyond the coarse linen curtains, a faint, dim light. I pulled back the bed curtains and saw only a cascade of long hair. Junqing sat with his back to me, chewing something slowly. Qing. I slipped on a robe and stepped down from the bed, only then seeing what he was doing. By the faint light of an oil lamp. He had unwrapped every single food item I'd brought back, piece by piece, bit by bit, shoving them into his mouth. Are you hungry? I asked, somewhat surprised. Even if he was hungry, he shouldn't be eating this much. He didn't answer, just pinched a piece of cake and stuffed it into his mouth. Ching ching, what's wrong? My heart tightened. He swallowed the pastry and spoke softly, you bought so much for me to eat today. Will you keep buying things for me in the future? Of course I will. I blurted out. In the future? No, not the future. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll go into town. Whatever I can afford, I'll bring it all back for you. You won't lie to me? He looked at me. I won't. I never have. I repacked the items, tied them securely, then guided him to rinse his mouth and wash his hands. Only then did I lead him back to bed. Tucking him in, I held his waist and patted him gently, like soothing a child, I promise. As long as that woman isn't your wife. Even if she comes knocking, I'll never abandon you. Some things don't cease to exist just because you cover your ears or close your eyes. That woman, that jade pendant, we couldn't evade them. Today's spectacle and commotion signaled ill intent. It was only a matter of time before they found us here. Jun Qingyu knows it, and I know it too. Yet if that woman truly is Jun Qingyu's wife, then he and I are the worst of villains. He, a faithless, heartless man, I, a shameless, wanton woman. We deserve to be torn to pieces 1,000 times over. But if they are not husband and wife, even if 1,000 people stood in my way, I would never let go of his hand. Perhaps my words stirred something within him. He suddenly flipped over, tore open my nightgown, and passion surged through me once more. I wrapped my arms around his neck, eyes half closed, murmuring indistinctly. Just as we were lost in the heat of the moment, my body froze abruptly. Someone! This intruder's footsteps were too light, and the timing was all wrong. By the time I realized someone was approaching, it was already too late. The door was kicked open. Dozens of people surged in instantly. I instinctively grabbed the quilt to cover myself, but Jun Qing in a large white robe shielded me. In the dead of night, our door was kicked in, our home invaded. I managed to utter a questioning who. Jun Qing and a man too frail to lift a chicken remained astonishingly composed. With practiced ease, he fastened my sash and adjusted my loose collar. Greetings, Minister. General. While I stood speechless in shock, Jun Qing swept aside the bed curtains, his gaze as cold as frost. What punishment befits those who trespass into this chamber? Me. My neck twisted inch by inch, turning to look at Jun Qing's jade-carved profile. Your Excellency. Anai Luo. Your Excellency. Anai Luo. These two titles shattered like two fragments of thin porcelain, piercing the very center of my consciousness. Pain surged, and fragmented scenes flooded my mind. Those kneeling on the ground rose one after another, retreating to either side. The clinking of jade and gold ornaments echoed. Two figures, one clad in crimson, the other in gold, entered. Pei Jingqing, you have the audacity. Huanilua, you dare touch this prince's people. Torches illuminated the entire chamber. The woman with the jade pendant and the man draped in opulent finery were fully revealed. In an instant. Just an instant. The cracks in her memory were stitched together, the shattered scenes restored. I murmured, third. Prince. Yu Tingyuan, third princess of the Great Yin dynasty. Nilua, are you all right? Yu Tingyuan's eyes brimmed with concern. The Great Yin's foremost warrior, what harm could come to her? If anyone's in trouble, it's Jingqing. The red-clad man sneered. He was Yu Qiyan, the fourth prince of the Dayan dynasty. Even if your highnesses were to arrive, it would be improper to trespass into the inner chambers, wouldn't it? When that cold, indifferent voice rang out, I could no longer maintain my composure. Pei Jingqing. The most treacherous and scheming minister of the Dayan dynasty, my mortal enemy, my sworn foe. I had sworn to kill two kinds of people in this lifetime, external enemies and internal traitors, and Pei Jingqing. But now, at this very moment, he was disheveled, covered in scratch marks, while I lay with torn robes and crimson stains across my body. What on earth was this? I slammed my eyes shut. 3 heavy, trembling breaths escaped me. After the third breath, I abruptly opened my eyes. My fingers stiff but my expression fierce, I pulled my robe together and stepped off the bed. Barefoot on the floor, I skillfully lifted my skirt hem, knelt on one knee, and declared in a clear voice, "Your servant, Wanilua, pays respects to the third prince, fourth, turn around." A voice chilled with icy menace cut me off. Pei Jingqing also stepped off the bed, blocking my path. My mind raced. Should I seize this moment to deliver a palm strike, counting how many vertebrae shattered? Every person in the chamber turned in unison. Fourth prince. Pei Jingqing offered Yu Qiyan a flat glance. Yu Qiyan snorted. This prince has no desire to look upon such. Your Highness. Pei Jingqing's tone sharpened. Yu Qiyan snorted coldly and turned his head away. I looked down and realized that in this half-kneeling position, a section of my calf and part of my thigh were exposed. Pei Jingqing bent down and tugged at the hem of my long robe. What are you doing? I instinctively seized his wrist, my gaze fierce. Pei Jingqing remained unmoved, allowing me to grip him while his other hand still smoothed the hem of my robe. Covering my legs, yet heedless of his own appearance, he bowed deeply. Your servant, Pei Jingqing, pays respects to the third prince and fourth prince. As many people had rushed in, just as many retreated out, except for Yu Tingyuan and Yu Qiyan, the sister and brother whose faces showed discord and whose hearts were even more at odds. The old square table and wooden stools inside the room welcomed the two most honored bottoms they would ever host. 4 people, 8 eyes, silently staring at each other. The atmosphere was suffocating. I've always been blunt and couldn't stand this atmosphere, feeling so awkward I started picking at my feet. And to make matters worse, I was barefoot, my toenails practically scraping the floor tiles. Unable to face Yu Tingyuan, and even less willing to look at Yu Qiyan, I could only sneak glances at Pei Jingqing. One glance, and I immediately frowned. Pei Jingqing and I rose almost simultaneously. I strode toward the coat rack in 2 steps. He strode toward the bedside in 2 steps. Turning back, he held a pair of cloth shoes in his hand, while I held an outer robe. The same look of bewilderment flashed in the eyes of both imperial relatives. I tossed the robe roughly at Pei Jingqing. Sitting down, I snapped, "This sickly thing can't stand the cold. If he dies, I won't be able to explain myself." Ignoring my unnecessary defense, Pei Jingqing silently placed the shoes beside my feet. Before I could reach for my feet, he seized my ankle. I instinctively flinched. His body temperature was always low. After being half exposed for so long, he must be freezing. In the blink of an eye, he had laced the shoes for me. The tabletop thudded twice as Yu Tingyuan stared straight at us. So, your months-long disappearance was due to mutual amnesia leading to a mistaken marriage? I truly lost my memory. I protested immediately, then glared fiercely at Pei Jingqing. But someone here is lying. When did I lie? The person asked calmly. You're still making excuses. How many times have I asked if you've regained your memory? What did you say? You said you hadn't. I hadn't. He extended a finger, slowly displacing mine from the tip of his nose, and replied deliberately, "When I said hadn't, I meant I hadn't lost my memory, not that I hadn't regained it, as you assumed. From the very beginning, I never claimed to have amnesia. Me. Memories unfolded like pages in a book, turning one after another. Flip, flip, flip. From beginning to end. And there really wasn't. My anger flared. You dare scheme against me. Scheme is too strong a word. It's merely..." He curved his lips. "A little trick. You have the nerve to say that. If not for the presence of others, I'd have slapped him right onto the roof." Minister Pei, Yu Tingyuan said with a forced smile, "Nilua is a first-rank general personally appointed by His Majesty. She commands 180,000 soldiers in the northern frontier. Your actions seem rather excessive." Pei Jingqing smiled faintly. "Your servant believes it's quite appropriate. A stroke of luck, a match made in heaven. Whether it's a good match or not isn't for you to decide," Yu Qiyan countered, his tone unusually firm. "General Hu's amnesia is one thing, but let's say you were momentarily blinded. This matter absolutely cannot stand." This was likely the first time in history that Yu Tingyao and Yu Qiyan had ever stood on the same side. The reasoning was straightforward. For over 300 years since the founding of Dayan, 8 patriarchs of the Pei clan had successively served as chancellors, while their sons and nephews occupied high positions. I, however, came from a military family, the He clan of the Northwest, guarding the northern frontier for generations and wielding military power. Previously, I supported the third princess, while Pei Jingqing backed the fourth prince, maintaining a delicate balance between our factions. Now that we are husband and wife, our two forces will inevitably merge. Conversely, should His Majesty learn of our marriage, the situation would spiral beyond control. For them, the optimal outcome is preserving the status quo. It benefits all 4 of us, ensuring safety for each. I understand all this, but Pei Jingqing does not. Your servant and Nai Luo have undergone all formalities, 3 mediators, 6 betrothal gifts, and consummated our marriage. How can this not be valid? Pei Jingqing scanned the room, his gaze settling on my face. Do you dare acknowledge our marital status? Under the scrutiny of 6 pairs of eyes, I felt as if 6 Mount Tai were crushing down upon me. The intricate court politics, the conflicting loyalties, the bitter feuds that had raged for years. And beyond that, the impeachment petition. The one that had filled me with resentment and rage to this very day. Your servant and Pei Jingqing, inside my wide sleeves, my fists clenched so tightly my knuckles cracked. Your servant and he were mistakenly bound by amnesia. Now that my mind is clear. I closed my eyes briefly, then slowly opened them to meet his gaze. Our eyes locked. I spoke, word by word, you and I have no connection whatsoever. Silence fell around us, even breath seemed to vanish. When I spoke those words, I expected Pei Jingqing to flare with anger, to turn hostile, but he did not. He gazed at me, silently, for a moment. As if trying to confirm something in my face, to search for something, but ultimately finding nothing. He let out a laugh. After that first laugh, he couldn't stop. Pei Jingqing, usually as steady as a mountain and deep as a pool, as cold and aloof as ice, laughed like a drunken madman. Laughing, he murmured, indeed. I should have understood long ago. Jingqing. Yu Qiyan frowned and spoke. Ignoring Yu Qiyan, he laughed and asked me, but we bowed before heaven and earth, exchanged betrothal documents, entered the bridal chamber, became husband and wife. You say it doesn't count? What about her? My wife. Where is she? Unable to bear these 3 pointed questions, I abruptly stood up, strode to the door, and coldly declared, consider her dead. That night was the last night before autumn began, and also the final summer night of that year. On the journey back to the imperial capital, I showed no sign of distress. Yet Yu Tingyuan, who rode with me, hesitated before asking, did you truly mean what you said to Pei Jingqing? Of course I did, I replied sternly. Your Highness knows my nature, I seek loyalty and sincerity, never falsehood. But I saw how you looked at Pei Jingqing. Yu Tingyuan scratched her head. Ah, Nilua, it seems to me you've developed feelings for him. She abandoned her formal address, and I shed my deference. Plucking at the bright yellow tassel below her sash, I muttered, I will never forget why my eldest sister died. Third sister, there is absolutely no possibility between him and me. Back then, when the imperial princess was accused of misconduct, it was a memorial from the head of the Pei clan that ultimately sealed the emperor's resolve. That memorial was the blade that slew the imperial princess. Pei Jingqing traded that very memorial for his present position. Between us lies ancient enmity, enduring resentment, and deep-seated grudges. This lifetime, we shall never be partners. It was likely that I wounded his pride. Upon returning to the imperial capital, his first act was to have the Ministry of Revenue suppress the 30,000 taels of military supplies I had requested. The next day, court convened. As I entered the palace gates, I spotted his grand sedan chair, symbolizing his ministerial rank. I dismounted my horse, he stepped out of his chair. In the Great Yin dynasty, military officers favored black, civil officials favored white. I wore a black court robe embroidered with intricate patterns of exotic beasts, he wore a floor-length white robe, subtly embroidered with swirling cloud patterns. I stood frozen in place, unable to move. He, however, walked slowly toward me, stopping at a distance neither near nor far. He gave a slight nod and said indifferently, General Hua, good morning. Morning. I instinctively began to respond. But he walked past me, continuing on his way. Watching his retreating figure, I clearly noticed how much slimmer his waistline appeared, cinched by the silver sash. I had thought our relationship would revert to what it once was. Back then, even face to face, I never held back, and he carried an underlying sharpness. I never imagined that becoming husband and wife would erase our former confrontations. At court assemblies, civil officials sat on one side, military officials on the other. Regarding the unjust withholding of 300,000 taels, I argued my case forcefully, while the Minister of Revenue repeatedly evaded responsibility. The old emperor, whose health had been failing in recent years, listened to our quarrel for only 15 minutes before losing patience. Regarding Minister Hu's request to expand military provisions, Minister Pei, what are your thoughts? While I was locked in debate with the Minister of Revenue, Pei Jingqing sat as if uninvolved, not uttering a word. But I knew the Minister of Revenue was also gauging his reaction. I expected Pei Jingqing to engage in a few rounds of debate with me as he had before, but unexpectedly, he pondered for a moment and said, "The stability of the northern border concerns the stability of the Great Yin. General Hu's petition for expansion is not unreasonable." As soon as he spoke, Yu Qiyan, standing beside him, suddenly looked at him. However, sure enough, there was more to come. Pei Jingqing continued in a measured tone. Since the beginning of this year, the Jiangnan region has suffered frequent raids by river pirates. The Ministry of Revenue has allocated 150,000 taels to recruit troops there, leaving insufficient funds for the 300,000 taels General Hu requested. I propose we first allocate the 150,000 taels to the northern frontier. After the autumn harvest, we can then consider dispersing the remaining military funds. Pei Jingqing's tactic of offering half now and dangling the other half as a carrot proved remarkably effective. The old emperor, his expression gentle, asked if I agreed. After exchanging a glance with Yu Tingyuan, I promptly expressed my gratitude. As court adjourned, I saw Pei Jingqing mount his sedan chair. Without hesitation, I abandoned my horse and set off in pursuit. He headed for the fourth prince's residence. Silently, I perched atop the study roof and lifted a tile. Inside, the fourth prince paced back and forth. After several rounds, he stopped before Pei Jingqing. "Why did you agree to allocate military funds during this morning's court session? Couldn't you see that Huanilua intends to expand Yu Tingyuan's military strength and build her power?" Pei Jingqing held his teacup as the lid slowly parted to reveal the leaves. "Your servant could see that, of course. You could see it, yet, could it be that because of Huanilua? Are you betraying this prince for her sake?" Before Pei Jingqing could respond, Yu Qiyan gritted his teeth. "A minister who betrays his sovereign loses all trust. Even if you return to Yu Tingyuan, she won't place her trust in you. Don't forget, the imperial princess died because she advocated weakening the aristocratic clans. As her own sister, she despises you all. Besides, you and I are still cousins." Yu Qian's mother was born into the Pei clan of Jiangnan, making him distantly related to Pei Jingqing. Pei Jingqing sipped his tea and said calmly, "Your Highness need not doubt me. Everything I've done today is for you." Yu Qiyan eyed him suspiciously. Pei Jingqing calmly laid out his plan. In short, half of the 300,000 taels would go to Jiangnan, his domain. He needed to secure military power for Yu Qiyan, but lacked a legitimate reason. With banditry plaguing Jiangnan, this provided the perfect pretext to openly raise troops. The remaining 150,000 taels destined for the northern frontier were allocated because he'd received intelligence. In recent years, the neighboring northern kingdom had been stirring restlessly, threatening the long peaceful northern frontier with potential conflict. "Your Highness, if war truly breaks out in the north, who do you think stands to gain?" he asked. "The commander leading the troops," Yu Qiyan replied. "Your Highness is astute. Once war breaks out, supplies and provisions will flow endlessly to the north. His Majesty will also place extraordinary reliance on Huanilua. That would be far from favorable for us. Now, by granting her 150,000 taels to stabilize the north while we train troops in the south. Your Highness, this exchange is not unfavorable." I watched as Yu Qiyan was persuaded by Pei Jingqing, nodding in agreement. Inside, I screamed frantically, Pei Jingqing is lying. Pei Jingqing is lying. The desolate lands beyond the northern frontier have long been subdued by me. Even the royal court has retreated thousands of miles away. I wanted the money solely to build Yu Tingyuan's foundation. Yet he claimed to have intelligence that the northern frontier was unstable. He was deceiving Yu Qiyan. Why would he do this? He had no reason to. Unless it was truly as Yu Qiyan said, he was doing it for. Upon returning to the mansion, I was informed Yu Tingyuan had been waiting for me. Your Highness. I bowed. Drop the Your Highness. Yu Tingyuan grabbed my arm, her eyes gleaming mischievously. Did Pei Jingqing get blinded by your beauty? Did lust cloud his judgment? Did he choose the beauty over the throne? I stared at her blankly. You got off lightly when your eldest sister caught you skipping classes back in the academy. Misusing idioms, talking nonsense. Mentioning the imperial princess, Yu Tingyuan's playful demeanor faded slightly as she shrugged. Among all those kids, the eldest imperial sister beat me every day, yet she hugged you constantly. Sometimes she'd even hug you while beating me. That's because Yu Tingyuan was the most mischievous as a child. The Imperial Academy of Dayan enrolled the offspring of noble families. I, Yu Tingyuan, Pei Jingqing, and many other children of similar age were classmates. Within the academy, the subject of strategic discourse was taught by the imperial princess. The imperial princess possessed astonishing brilliance, radiant as golden light, a rising sun in everyone's eyes. Thus, when she faced impeachment, the very youths she had nurtured, now returned to their homes, rushed to petition on her behalf, crying injustice. Two stood apart. One was Yu Qiyan, who had never attended the academy. The other was Pei Jingqing, like me, a pupil of the imperial princess. His silence made me think him a coward, ungrateful and self-serving. Yet after assuming the family headship, he submitted a memorial that claimed the imperial princess's life. Ni Luo. Yu Tingyuan turned to me, her usual mischievous expression fading into calmness. First, Pei Jingqing was pivotal in the death of the eldest imperial sister. Pei Jingqing stands at the pinnacle of the aristocratic clans. As long as he remains, the clans cannot be eradicated. This is the second reason. The world knows Pei Jingqing serves under the fourth prince. If he could betray Yu Qiyan, he could betray me. This man, I cannot trust. I will never trust him. This is the third reason. In the future, even if I spare his life, I will never grant him significant power. And I certainly won't marry him to my confidant, the general of the Great Yin dynasty, whom I regard as family. I looked at Yu Tingyuan. After a long moment, I responded softly. I understand. A moonless, wind-swept night. The perfect time for petty thievery. Leaning against the outer wall of the Prime Minister's residence, I felt as if I'd been bewitched. Pei Jingqing's actions were entirely his own choice. No one forced him. Why should I be so troubled? And certainly, there was no need to stay up late, running out to do something so pointless. That said. But since I was already here. Just as I hesitated over scaling the wall, voices suddenly reached me from within. I immediately crouched low, pressing myself against the stone. Here, set up this ladder, yes, right here. Extend it a bit further. Perfect. Once the footsteps faded, I climbed over the wall and saw a sturdy ladder propped against it. Pei Jingqing knew I'd come. So what if he planned everything? I refused to use your ladder. Leaping with all my might, I headed straight for the inner quarters, using my lightness skill. As I pushed open the window, expecting to find Pei Jingqing waiting for me, I unexpectedly landed in a room filled with mist. Sheer curtains hung low, the sound of water unceasing. This man, he was bathing. I instinctively spun around, stammering, I didn't know. Close the window. A voice, calm and unruffled, came from behind the curtains, I'm cold. I gave a soft "oh." Closed the window immediately. After closing it, I slapped my palm in frustration. Why bother? Let him freeze to death. Ahem. I cleared my throat, searching for words. How did you know I'd come tonight? You eavesdropped on my conversation with the fourth prince during the day. With so many questions in your mind, and your temperament, you could hold out for no more than 3 hours. Therefore, you were bound to come tonight. I spun around abruptly. You knew I was eavesdropping? Pei Jingqing knew no martial arts, a pure scholar. He couldn't possibly have known I was on the roof. A lamp burned behind the gauze curtain, casting a hazy, yellow glow. Pei Jingqing leaned against the bathtub, his shoulder line soft and graceful. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned my head away. The scent of orchid and musk, I detected it, he said. I'd been careless. Pei Jingqing was unlike ordinary men. He was born with a natural fragrance, like orchids and musk. After so many years as husband and wife, I must have absorbed it. Ordinary people might not notice, but Pei Jingqing was the source of the scent. One whiff was enough to know. So, I lowered my voice. Those words were meant for my ears. You were deceiving me. The 15,000 taels of military funds will be disbursed within 10 days. I will personally oversee every step of the process. You may supervise the transfer at the Ministry of Revenue, or escort the shipment to the northern frontier yourself. The implication was clear, this sum was guaranteed. Then it wasn't a lie. Why? I looked at the man behind the gauze curtain, puzzled. He was helping me. Why would he help me? Pei Jingqing extended his arm, his fingers gathering his long hair, sweeping it past his neck, and submerging it in the water. Without the hair to conceal it, his jade-like back was fully exposed. He slowly turned his head, his long eyes glancing lightly at me. Perhaps it's because I no longer wish to live. Speaking thus, he chuckled softly, murmuring, or perhaps it's because I want to stir this situation into even greater chaos. 300,000 taels of military pay, how many soldiers can that muster? 30,000? 50,000. The more troops Yu Tingyuan gains, the more Yu Qian gains. One day, when the fighting begins, it will be the lives of 100,000 men. Ah, perhaps more than 100,000. When the swords clash, it will be the collapse of mountains and rivers, the world turned upside down, national calamity and the people's ruin, blood spilled for 1,000 miles. Pei Jingqing! I shouted angrily, have you gone mad? It's not that I've gone mad, it's that you've broken your vow. Pei Jingqing's tone was cold and distant. I was suddenly speechless. Pei Jingqing rose, draping a nightgown over his shoulders. As the gauze curtains parted, he emerged, his form shrouded in mist. The damp, sheer fabric clung to his body, nearly transparent, revealing his jade-like bones and icy white skin. Stunned by his words, I could only open my mouth passively, unable to utter a single syllable. He approached me slowly, taking one step for each sentence. You shall recognize only me in this lifetime. Should you ever renege and betray me? Mountains shall collapse, the heavens turn upside down, the nation perish, its people die, blood staining 1,000 miles. His bare feet pressed against the floor tiles. With each step, the bones and veins on his instep arched taut. The tiles were jet black, his skin icy white. Amidst the stark contrast of black and white, his relentless words echoed. He advanced step by step, I retreated step by step. My back slammed against the pillar, leaving no room to retreat. He pressed a hand against my ear, leaning down to look at me. His eyes were dark as an abyss. The vow, you spoke it yourself. I believed you, gave myself to you, only to be cast aside. You betrayed me, so I take my revenge. What's wrong with that? My pupils dilated wildly, my lips trembling. He stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly smiled. Don't be afraid. That vow had nothing to do with you. I froze. He stepped back 2 paces, adjusting his drenched gauze robe, his voice lazy. My wife was the one who trusted me most in this world. She only ever treated me well, cherished me as the apple of her eye. She would never betray me, much less abandon me. Alas, she is dead. Finishing, he offered me a faint smile. General He, barging into the Prime Minister's residence at night, surely you have no desire to hear tales of this official and his late wife. Such matters are not for this official to share with General He. The late wife. You've said enough. This official is weary, and the night is deep. There are boundaries between men and women. General He, please take your leave. He turned away indifferently. But you haven't answered You are not my late wife. I owe you no answers. Pei Jingqing's voice turned icy. If you do not leave now, I shall summon my guards. I hesitated only a moment. Pei Jingqing actually called for his men. Euphemistic phrasing, forced retreat. Reality, a full-blown retreat. That night, Pei Jingqing turned his back on me. His guards chased me down 8 city blocks. After finally shaking them off and returning to the general's residence, I collapsed onto my bed, utterly exhausted. But sleep refused me. Like a pancake stuck to the griddle, I tossed and turned, rolled this way and that. My mind kept circling back to Pei Jingqing. Cold and distant, that was the familiar him. But tonight, he seemed somehow thick and lustful, wickedly charming. He wouldn't actually disrupt the empire, would he? I muttered to myself, then shook my head immediately. No, no. A man with such ambition wouldn't risk everything over a fleeting affair, would he? Stirring up chaos that turns the world upside down? He'd forsake overwhelming power, abandon unimaginable wealth, driven mad, bent on rebellion, willing to bury the entire realm in the grave of his passion. What kind of twisted, love-crazed mind could commit such an act? Eliminate the impossible, and whatever remains, however unbelievable, must be the truth. Pei Jingqing did this. Likely, for me. Those mad ravings were both an accusation and a mockery. Dewdrop couple, in the end, they were still husband and wife. I ate the porridge he cooked, wore the clothes he mended, shared a harmonious marriage with him, and slept in the same bed. Ah! After a faint, lingering sigh, I murmured softly, if only I hadn't lost my memory. The night was still. A very long time passed. If only the imperial princess hadn't died, I whispered softly. Pei Jingqing didn't cause trouble. 10 days later, the military supplies were accounted for and sent to the northern frontier. I had intended to escort the shipment, but Yuan kept me in the imperial capital. The old emperor's health was deteriorating. He had coughed up blood in the night a few days prior. Though he had pulled through, his imperial constitution was frail. At this critical juncture, I could not leave Yuan's side. The atmosphere in the court was tense, like a storm gathering on the horizon. However, no storm came. No wind came. A madman arrived first. Minister Pei, what did you say? Repeat it. The old emperor's cloudy eyes suddenly sharpened. Not only the emperor was stunned, no one in the hall remained calm, myself included. Your servant declares his resignation to observe mourning for his late wife, Pei Jingqing stated in a clear voice, his gaze unwavering. The court erupted in uproar. Yu Tingyan, for eyes fixed on me simultaneously. I glared back at them without hesitation. Why are you looking at me? This has nothing to do with me. Deceased wife, it's just a deceased wife, after all, my molars ground with a sharp creak. I should have seen this coming. Pei Jingqing wasn't causing trouble, he was saving it up, waiting to unleash it all at once. Deceased wife. The old emperor massaged his temples. If I recall correctly, you have yet to marry. Where did this deceased wife come from? 3 months ago, this servant fell from a cliff and was saved by a woman. I fell deeply for her and hastily married her. My official robe tugged twice. Yuan leaned in, whispering, why did you save him? I yanked my robe back, ignoring her. And the woman? The old emperor asked. She died, he answered flatly. 3 months? She died already? The old emperor was confused. She died, he said expressionlessly, without a whole body. She died cleanly. Pfft, I shot Yuan a death glare. Yuan pressed her lips tightly together, struggling to suppress her laughter. The old emperor seemed taken aback. Not even a body? None. He lied without blinking. The emperor might be old and ill, but he wasn't foolish. After a few breaths, he looked at Pei Jingqing. Minister Pei, deceiving the sovereign is a grave crime. Pei Jingqing was prepared. He drew 2 scrolls from his sleeve, one crimson, one azure. These are the marriage contract and vows between the servant and my late wife. The old emperor flipped a page. Mountain maiden? She was a young woman found at the foot of a cliff, hence the name Mountain Maiden, Pei Jingqing explained calmly. Pfft, 2 dagger-like glances shot straight at Yu Tingyuan. She covered her mouth, laughing so hard her shoulders shook. Mountain Maiden, Pei Jingqing. The marriage contract seems genuine. The old emperor examined it. Something was off. I glanced at the red book on the table. Back then, I was called Mountain Maiden, true enough. But Pei Jingqing should have been called Zheng Qinju. Why was it his real name? My gaze shifted to Pei Jingqing. He stared straight ahead, ignoring me completely. Right. It suddenly dawned on me. When we wrote the marriage contract, he'd personally taken the brush. I'd been so focused on getting married quickly that I hadn't paid attention to what he'd written. This vow, the old emperor's voice was deep and solemn, what a woman. Utterly bold, and most disrespectful. Pei Jingqing lifted his robe and knelt, his voice steady. My late wife loved me too deeply, nearly to the point of madness. Hence she made such a vow. No way. Yu Tingyuan craned her neck again. You made such a solemn vow for Pei Jingqing? Don't love him too much, sis. I shoved her head back with one hand. My face burned hot with shame, fury, and indignation. What did loving him so deeply she was nearly mad even mean? Ha! Some people do go mad for love. Only the mad know. Enough. I won't quarrel with the dead. But resigning your post for such a woman was unwise. I grant you 3 days to mourn and bury her, to honor the deep affection she held for you. Third Prince. Laugh if you must. No need to hold it in. What nonsense. I possess such composure, what storms have I not weathered? I've long cultivated an unflappable demeanor. I turned to her with a cold expression. Third sister. Pwahahaha, Yu Tingyuan couldn't hold it in. She clapped her thighs while laughing wildly. I yanked her arm away in disgust. Go slap yourself. Yu Tingyuan laughed so hard tears welled in her eyes. I knew Pei Jingqing was trouble, but I never imagined he'd pull off this. Dead wife, wake. Ha ha ha. I rolled my eyes. Seeing her unable to stop laughing, I decided to flip open the carriage curtain and jump out. Don't go. She grabbed me, forcing her mouth into a straight line. I won't laugh anymore. I promise, I won't laugh. I sat back down, my face ashen. His resignation before the emperor must be part of some scheme. Something unusual always hides something sinister, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. Better to be extra cautious. That treacherous chancellor, who knows, he might just snap. Makes sense, Yu Tingyuan nodded. After a pause, she tilted her head. So, what heavy oath did you swear to him? My deceased wife? Get lost. Pushed beyond endurance, he resorted to vulgarity. Pei Jingqing had thrown caution to the wind. Prayer flags, black silk, white flowers, joss paper, mournful music. Inside and outside the Prime Minister's residence, sorrow reigned supreme. It truly felt as if his own wife had passed away. General. A deputy commander I'd dispatched returned, panting. I went to the Prime Minister's residence. The Prime Minister is truly in mourning attire. A black lacquered coffin stands in the main hall. His officials, and the fourth prince's faction. Well, every civil official has gone to pay their respects. Crack, a dull thud. I snapped the thick military baton clean in two. I'm still alive. My molars nearly shattered as rage boiled over. Didn't he claim his deceased wife's remains were lost? Without a body, what the hell is he displaying in that coffin? Rumor has it, it's an empty coffin. Inside lie the Dowager Chancellor's ceremonial garments and personal effects. A buzzing sound filled my head, and darkness suddenly engulfed my vision. Pei Jingqing, treacherous chancellor, bastard, son of a bitch. Pei Jingqing, son of a bitch, bastard, treacherous chancellor. Fury overwhelmed me, and the words tumbled out in a chaotic jumble. I couldn't bear it. I simply couldn't bear it. Tossing aside my baton, I strode out. My footsteps echoed with fury, my face a mask of murderous intent. General! Where are you going? To the chancellor's residence, I ground out, each word a razor-sharp edge. To mourn my husband. Huh? My deputy commander stared, dumbfounded. Outside the residence, the streets were bustling with carriages and crowds. Truly, everyone who could come had come. General He, why have you come? Someone recognized me, clearly astonished. Am I not allowed to come? I retorted coldly. Not that, but... Well, General He and the Chancellor have always been. Not exactly on good terms. I truly thought you wouldn't come. The man's fawning smile was laced with wary eyes. Hardly surprising. Dressed in crimson battle robes, my face etched with grim resolve, I clearly meant no peace. Pushing aside those blocking my path, I charged straight for the Chancellor's mansion gates. From afar, I could see the elaborately arranged memorial hall and that jet-black coffin adorned with gold. He really dared. Pei Jingqing. Unable to contain myself, I stormed into the hall. What exactly do you? My words cut off abruptly. Kneeling beside the coffin, dressed entirely in white, was Pei Jingqing. Since the dual reign of the two sovereigns in our dynasty and the imperial princess's advocacy for gender equality, the laws had been revised several times, establishing equal status between husband and wife. Should the husband die, the wife presides over the mourning rites, and vice versa. For commoners, upon the death of their wife, the husband naturally presides over the mourning, kneeling to receive condolences from relatives and friends. But Pei Jingqing was the head of a prominent clan, the patriarch of his family. He knelt only before the emperor, even the crown prince was not worthy of such profound respect from him. Yet here he was, kneeling with such utter composure. As if he were merely a widower from an ordinary household. General He. A servant handed him 3 incense sticks, murmuring softly, "Please." I took the incense in a daze, glanced at the lit end, then looked at Pei Jingqing, and finally at the coffin. I was supposed to offer incense. For myself? I stood frozen, unable to move. If I didn't, someone would. A man in plain robes had appeared beside me. Taking the incense, he bowed 3 times with reverence before placing it in the burner. The attendant chanted loudly, "First bow." Me. You're actually bowing? Second bow. Third bow. The mourner returns the bow. No, no, no. Your Excellency, please compose yourself. This humble servant takes his leave. The man dared not accept Pei Jingqing's formal salute and fled in panic. Before exiting, he still managed to cry out in deep sorrow, "May the lady rest in peace." What rest? I'm still standing right here. General, the attendant approached, the incense is nearly burned out. 3 sticks of incense were withdrawn and placed into the incense burner. The master of ceremonies spoke, "First bow." I didn't move an inch. The man was observant. He bowed twice, then 3 times, addressing me, and then called out, "The bereaved master returns the courtesy." Pei Jingqing looked at me. This was the first time he'd met my gaze since I entered the memorial hall. His eyes were calm and composed, utterly unruffled. As our eyes locked, he lowered his lashes, hands clasped in ritual, and bowed low to the ground. My lips twitched. What did you say? The servant hadn't caught it. Out. My face was cold as I repeated through gritted teeth, "Out, all of you, out." The servants and ceremonial master scattered in a flash. With a wave of my arm, the main door slammed shut. Cut off from the outside sunlight, the memorial hall felt eerily gloomy. I strode to Pei Jingqing and grabbed his wrist. Pei Jingqing lifted his gaze, his eyes deep and somber. "General He, what are you doing? Get up!" I pulled him upward. As the chief mourner, I should kneel. He remained unmoved. "I'm jumping around like a jackrabbit, and you're mourning my ass? Get up! Get up!" I pulled with all my strength. How could he resist? Not only did I haul him upright, but his body slammed straight into mine. I instinctively stepped back, only to collide with something behind me. Had he not reached out to steady himself against the wall behind us, he might have fallen entirely upon me. Even without the weight, his tall frame loomed completely over me. Our noses nearly touched, our breaths mingling. After that night, I hadn't seen him this close. He'd grown much thinner, the soft flesh gone, his bone structure sharper. That unique orchid musk scent acted like a thread, drawing my gaze to him. His neck, collarbone, and beneath the white robe, that icy jade-like body within reach. Too fragrant. Fragrant enough to be intoxicating. To be bewitching. His nose suddenly brushed against mine. Our lips were separated by nothing more than a thread. "Do you know what lies behind you?" he murmured. The scent was intoxicating. I gasped, "What?" He drew closer still, his lips seeming to brush mine, yet perhaps not quite. "It is the coffin of my late wife." Coffin. A coffin. Startled, I pressed my hand backward. Hard lacquered wood, icy cold. I gasped, trying to push him away. Pei Jing-cheng. How dare he seduce me on top of a coffin? But my push lacked force, and naturally, it didn't move him. The seductive glint faded from his eyes, replaced by icy detachment. "General Hu came to pay respects to my late wife. I am deeply grateful. But why the anger, General Hu? And you have the nerve to say that?" My anger boiled over. What is this nonsense? I'm perfectly fine here, I'm not dead. If you want to mourn and live as a widow, you can wait another 70 years. I'd gladly wait. Did you give me the chance? You sought death with such fervor, I granted it. How is that my fault? He shot back with equal venom. My blood boiled. Stop your sarcastic nonsense. Listen here, Pei Jingqing, if I ever die, I will absolutely, positively, without fail drag you down with me. Shared life and death? He scoffed coldly. You may wish it, but I refuse. You'll have to want it whether you like it or not. I roared. If I don't drag you down to the underworld with me, who else in this world could ever restrain a madman like you? After shouting this, I grabbed his collar and pulled him down. I bit down hard on his collarbone. This bite, I gave it everything I had, without mercy. After returning to the imperial capital, I tossed and turned night after sleepless night. My grudge against him, my hatred for him. We were sworn enemies, yet also husband and wife. We were opposites, yet also bound by love. All the pent-up negativity erupted in that instant. The next moment, he forcefully lifted my chin and bit down hard on my lips. The taste of blood mingled, his and mine. Pulling away from my lips, he kissed my cheek, then my jawline, finally tracing his way down my neck. As he bit me, I clawed at the fabric of his back. It was over. Closing my eyes, my mind collapsing, only one thought remained. I was truly, utterly finished. He tore the leather belt from my waist, and I ripped open the collar of his white shirt. Rough, impatient, urgent, crude. Reckless, utterly lost to reason. Just then, the door burst open. What are you doing? Yu Qian's voice was filled with shock and fury. The leather belt was fastened back around his waist. Pei Jingqing. I seized his hand as he tied the belt, fixing him with a steady gaze. It's fine, he said, his voice slightly hoarse but controlled. You go back first. I'll handle this. I had no idea how he planned to handle it. My own mind was a tangled mess. He ran his fingers through my disheveled hair and murmured, "Let's go." I nodded and turned to open the door. Niluo. He called out to me. I looked back at him. In the somber funeral hall, a complex light flickered deep in his eyes. Do you dare acknowledge our marital bond? Me. That question again. The first time he asked, though my heart was torn, I gave a resolute answer. Now he asks again. But I couldn't answer. I couldn't refuse, nor could I admit it. He let out a low chuckle. Slowly, he pulled back the open collar, covering the blood-stained bite marks. Let's go back, he said. My soul felt detached as I returned to the general's residence. Regardless of what others said to me, I walked straight back to my bedroom and shut the door. His Majesty gave Pei Jingqing 3 days. On the first day, the civil officials paid their respects. On the second day, many military officers came as well. I attended both days. Others, unaware of the reason, simply assumed I had made my stance clear and followed suit. By the third day, the funeral procession was set to depart. Perched atop the highest rockery in the general's residence, I watched the procession march down the street toward the outer city gates. When footsteps drew near, I knew it was Yu Tingyuan. I didn't stir. She called my name. Seeing I ignored her, she leapt up and landed beside me on the rock summit. Oh. Yu Tingyuan chuckled. Planning to bury you here for real? I had no heart for her banter. I heard you went to the Prime Minister's residence to pay your respects on the first day. And I also heard you had a heated argument with him in the funeral hall. You even locked yourselves in a room ready to fight, but luckily Yu Qian stumbled upon you. If you ask me, while a funeral hall is certainly a charged setting, some things are better suited for the bedroom. As she spoke, her gaze shifted from the distance back to my neck. I remember the night I found you, it was almost the same. Why does Pei Jingqing always insist on leaving his mark here? I instinctively reached to tug at my collar. Don't bother, she brushed my hand away. At this distance, you could kill him effortlessly, and he could kill you just as easily. Nilua, do you really trust him that much? Third sister. I lowered my head and whispered, I'm sorry. There's nothing to apologize for. Even if there were, it wouldn't be to me, it would be to eldest sister. But eldest sister cherishes you most, she wouldn't bring herself to blame you. Yu Tingyuan finished speaking, then casually stretched out her legs, swinging them back and forth over the stone edge. Back in the academy, though the eldest sister taught us all, among our group, you were universally recognized as the leader. You were already full of passion and righteousness back then. I remember how fiercely you protected Pei Jingqing. If anyone bullied him, you'd chase them down and beat them up so badly they'd hide in the outhouse, too scared to come out. Recalling the past, Yu Tingyuan laughed aloud, but strangely enough, the very ones you beat up, they respected you, revered you, called you boss. The entire academy bowed to you and obeyed your every word, except for Pei Jingqing. Yu Tingyuan's laughter faded. You saved him countless times, shielded him from harm, even favored him with your kindness. Yet until he left the academy, he never once smiled at you. Actually, I murmured softly, he did smile. On the day he departed the imperial capital, I caught up to his carriage, wanting to see him off one last time. He lifted the curtain and smiled when he saw me. Back then, Pei Jingqing was only 11 or 12, his features not yet fully formed, yet already possessing extraordinary beauty. When he smiled, it felt like a breeze swept through, scattering peach blossoms across the sky. It was a beauty that could captivate a city. So, you've long been, third sister, I interrupted her, smiling, I've cherished him for a long time. Yu Tingyuan fell silent for a moment, then sighed, Nilua, you shouldn't have to endure this suffering. I said nothing. She said nothing more. We both understood. My path with Pei Jingqing was destined to be unfulfilled. What good was it to cherish him? The imperial princess had nurtured me with her teachings. To all the women of the realm, she had shown the way. This debt of gratitude far outweighs any romantic affection. Unable to have both, I must inevitably choose the former and forsake the latter. This suffering was mine to bear. 3 days after the mourning period ended, I encountered Pei Jingqing again at the palace gates. Unlike before, I approached him first, clasping my fists in salute. Good morning, Minister. Pei Jingqing studied me for a long moment before slowly returning the bow. Good morning, General Hua. Thus, with unspoken understanding, we proceeded together to the palace hall. The aged emperor, lacking vigor, dismissed the morning court after but half an hour. I attended to matters at the Ministry of War, then visited the Ministry of Revenue. Nearing noon, hunger gnawed at my stomach until it felt like my heart pressed against my spine. I resolved to enter whichever government office I passed and scrounge a meal from the communal pot. No sooner had the thought crossed my mind than someone offered to treat me to a meal. I stepped into the vermilion imperial carriage and felt it sway slightly. The carriage will circle the palace grounds. During this time, no one will overhear our conversation. Once it comes to a stop, you and I will have never met today. Yue Qian pushed a small tray toward me. General He must be hungry. These are sweets bestowed by His Majesty. Try some. Though he said try, he pinched a bit from each pastry before popping it into his own mouth. I didn't stand on ceremony. Grabbing a flaky pastry, I devoured it in 2 bites. General He knows this well. In my youth, I was taught by the Grand Tutor within the palace walls and never attended the Imperial Academy. Thus, I know little of its affairs. I've only heard that you, General He, have commanded great respect since your time there. I imagine it was through virtue that you won people over. I wouldn't say it was virtue, I explained. It was mostly sheer force. Yu Qian smiled. He and Yu Tingyuan were half-siblings, sharing the same father but bearing little resemblance. Yu Tingyuan and the imperial princess both bore a striking resemblance to their birth mother, the Empress Dowager Zhao Huang, while Yu Qian resembled his mother, consort Pei. The Pei family all possessed narrow, brilliant phoenix-like eyes. When they smiled, their eyes shimmered with radiant light. Is sheer strength enough to win Pei Jingqing's heart? He asked softly. It should be. I swallowed a pastry and answered truthfully. As a child, he was frail and withdrawn, constantly bullied. If I hadn't been able to fight, how could I have saved and protected him? Without my rescue and protection, how could he have come to cherish me so deeply? You are honest. Yu Qian's smile remained unchanged. Fourth Prince, I know why you sought me out. I can tell you plainly, Minister Pei and I are mutually affectionate. I took another pastry and continued, but mutual affection is useless. Each serves their own master, each pursues their own ends. In the end, we are destined to be apart. Not necessarily. Yu Qian murmured softly, a smile lingering, if only someone would abandon darkness for light. Your Highness means. Pei Jingqing intends to sever ties with his own flesh and blood? Yu Qian. Oh, no. Then. Brothers at odds? Yu Qian. Not quite, I pondered, then realized, turning against each other as enemies. That should be right. Yu Qian sighed, if possible, General He, please use fewer idioms in future. The meaning gets across just fine. Why be so demanding? I grinned. Yu Qian took a pastry but didn't eat it immediately. Instead, he slowly crushed it between his fingers. This prince's meaning, General He should understand. If General He is willing, you can have anything, including Pei Jingqing. I see. My eyes lit up. Then this subject requests that starting from village schools, at least half the boys and half the girls be enrolled. From then on, for the provincial exams, the imperial court exams, the palace exams. All selection processes should allocate quotas accordingly. In the imperial court, half the officials shall be women, among merchants and traders, half the wealthy shall be women. Men may weave cloth, women may train in martial arts, men may guard the inner quarters, women may achieve great deeds, whatever they choose. Your Highness, can you make this happen? After hearing my demands, Yu Qian remained silent for a long while. Seeing his expression darken noticeably, I shrugged and continued stuffing pastries into my mouth. Can Yu Tingyuan do these things? He asked. I swallowed the crumbs in my mouth and replied naturally, of course she can. I don't believe it, he said in a deep voice. Then let me rephrase it. Starting from village schools, skip the details, keep it simple. Men manage external affairs, women manage the household, men achieve great deeds, women diligently tend to the home, men serve in the court, women manage the household. Your Highness, can you guarantee these things? Yu Qian answered without hesitation, I can. That's exactly right. My eyes crinkled with a smile as I murmured softly, because your Highness is a man. If you become emperor, men will hold power. Naturally, you'll seek benefits for men, for you share common interests. I am not like that. I am a woman. I may indeed become a powerful minister of Dayan through my family background and martial prowess, but that would only apply to me. What of the women in this world who are less fortunate than I? Take Pei Jingqing, who is similar to me, he too is a powerful minister of Dayan. Yet men in this world who are less capable than him hold power and influence. I ask you, is that fair? Yu Qian's long eyes darkened, his expression unreadable. I smiled and continued, I did not choose the third prince. I chose to find a ruler who would grant autonomy to all women under heaven. The carriage slowed to a crawl. I lifted the curtain to see we were nearing the 6 ministries. The pastries on the plate were nearly gone. I brushed the crumbs from my hands, preparing to disembark. Hua ni luo. Yu Qiyan called suddenly. He crushed the remaining pastry in his hand, his voice icy cold. If a woman holds power, will that bring the day you desire? It should. I scratched beneath my ear, deciding to waste a few more words. Your Highness, you yourself said I was raised in the Imperial Academy. But truthfully, I was taught by the Imperial Princess. Born into a military family, I've always been fascinated by tactics and formations. Yet, I am a woman. Though father taught me martial arts, he never believed I could achieve anything significant. To expose me to scholarship, he even sent me to the Imperial Academy. At the academy, I defied my father, spending my days mischievously fighting, until I met the Imperial Princess. I smiled, lost in memory. When I met the Imperial Princess, I wasn't human, I was a prickly little hedgehog. Armed with innate strength and born into a military family, I fought anyone I saw, quite ruthlessly. Later, many things happened. When I was finally subdued, the Imperial Princess ruffled my hair and said, "Little Nyeluo, you possess the talent of a general. It would be a waste to let it go to waste. Study diligently and master the art of war. If you succeed, I promise you the glory of conquering the world and establishing a dynasty." She delivered. I smiled at Yu Qiyan. Princess did deliver. In her lifetime, she amended the laws to grant men and women equal standing. Though not universally accepted yet, she fulfilled her promise. The Imperial Princess remained true to her original aspirations until her death. How could I, for the sake of personal affection, forsake the beauty of the realm? The carriage has stopped. Kneeling halfway, I bowed, "Your servant takes his leave." This was a complete severing of ties. But what could be done? Do it again, 10 times over, and I'd still make the same choice. Only pastries. So bitter. Not long after that incident, a new rumor spread throughout the court and the realm. It claimed Pei Jingqing was about to marry the daughter of the Qin clan from Jiangdong, uniting with the aristocratic families to bolster the Yueqi banquet. I hadn't believed it, dismissing it entirely. Unexpectedly, during that morning court session, Yue Qiyan brought up the matter. The old emperor, his qi even more depleted, didn't think much of it. He merely asked Pei Jingqing if he wished to request an imperial marriage decree. I watched Pei Jingqing silently. Pei Jingqing stood rooted to the spot, neither confirming nor denying, as if he had no connection to the matter whatsoever. Father. Yu Tingyuan spoke first. Minister Pei has only just concluded his late wife's funeral rites, a grand and solemn affair. To marry again in less than half a month would hardly be appropriate, would it? As head of the Pei clan of Jiangnan, should Pei Jingqing wed the daughter of the Qin family of Jiangdong, the entire southern frontier's power would fall into Yu Qian's hands. This was absolutely not what Yu Tingyuan wished to see. Yu Qian had prepared his arguments meticulously, his reasoning well-structured and persuasive. The two stood in the grand hall, locked in a fierce verbal battle, neither yielding an inch. With their leaders locked in conflict, the remaining ministers naturally fanned the flames. The old emperor, losing patience, delivered his verdict bluntly. Minister Pei's marriage is his own decision. Others need not meddle. Once the Qin family's daughter enters the city, should you wish to arrange a marriage, come to me anytime. Eunuchs supported the old emperor as he left the court. Pei Jingqing departed first, never once glancing my way. Yu Qiyan approached me, murmuring with a low chuckle, "Qin Ling is already en route. The day she arrives in the imperial capital will mark the union of the Pei and Qin clans. Invitations will be widely distributed, and this prince will personally deliver one to the general's residence. General Hu must grace us with his presence to drink this cup of wedding wine and celebrate the bridal chamber." I clenched my fists, not uttering a single word in reply. Yu Tingyuan approached me and asked, "Will Pei Jingqing agree?" "I don't know," I murmured. "Probably." Yu Tingyuan sighed and asked again, "Can we stop him from agreeing?" I lowered my lashes. "I don't know. Probably not. Pei Jingqing is different from me. When I target someone, I roll up my sleeves and charge straight in, seeking a clean, decisive end. When he targets someone, he delights in stabbing needles and knives into their heart. That day, upon returning to the general's mansion, a subordinate officer delivered a letter. Just by the handwriting on the envelope, I knew it was from Pei Jingqing. Holding my breath, I sprinted back to my quarters. Pressing my back against the door crack, I forced myself to open the letter gently. The paper was snow white, bearing only 7 words: "The day of the arranged marriage draws near. I am a soldier." No. Strictly speaking, I am the leader of soldiers. We soldiers have always defended our homeland with heroic resolve. Thus, after draining every drop of wine in the general's residence, I marched with that same heroic resolve to find Yu Tingyuan. Stumbling unsteadily, I spotted her and threw myself at her. "Nieluo, how much have you drunk?" She caught me, pinning me onto the couch. "Not much. Just a little. Just a little." I held up 2 fingers, pressed tightly together. She sat beside me and sighed, "Why bother?" I chuckled, squinting my eyes and flashing my little white teeth. "You think I'm heartbroken now, drowning my sorrows in wine, tormented by love?" Yu Tingyuan was stunned. No wonder great writers love booze, this stuff really does sharpen your literary skills. You're even using idioms correctly now. I scoffed, wiggling a finger. "You're wrong. I'm not sad or miserable, I'm happy." My voice rose involuntarily as I laughed. "I'm overjoyed, I tell you. Ever since I regained my memories." No, not regained, even earlier than that. It was when he smiled at me. Even earlier. The very first time we met. "Hold on." Yu Tingyuan pressed a hand against my chest. "Not any earlier than that." I huffed heavily. "I adore Pei Jingqing." "Adore. You know that." "I told you, Huanilua. Adore, like him. Like Pei Jingqing, keep it down, you old hag." Yu Tingyuan covered her ears. "Don't use your inner energy. This can't be known by the whole city yet. But liking him, it's useless." I laughed, my shoulders shaking. Because in this world, there are so many things more important than liking him, more important than him, even more important than myself. I'm so bitter, truly bitter. Desiring what I cannot have, gaining only to lose again. Everything tastes bitter, cakes, wine. All bitter. Yu Tingyuan said nothing, simply held me, letting me lean against her shoulder. I felt something fall from my eyes, yet I couldn't stop laughing. I was the one who made the decision, yet I remained so greedy. He isn't mine, but perhaps I can secretly keep this affection. I don't want him, I only want to hold on to this feeling of delight in him. But it turns out, even this isn't allowed, even this is bitter. But today, I'm no longer bitter, because he made his decision too. My laughter wouldn't stop, and the tears fell even harder. Why? Why did he make that knife? Why? 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 I asked the unanswerable question over and over, my vision blurring, my head heavy and feet light. Only faint voices reached my ears. "Your Highness. Pei. Secret letter." Beyond that, I knew nothing more. The last sliver of vision spun wildly, then plunged into complete darkness. When I awoke the next day, it was already noon. Yu Tingyuan sat beside the bed, arms crossed, eyes cold. Seeing her stance, I knew immediately, I was in deep trouble. "Seems I got drunk yesterday, huh?" I sat up, trying to bluff my way out. No idea how I ended up here. "I've got things to do, so I'll be going, N.I. Luo." She grabbed me by the collar and dragged me to the doorway. "Look at the mess you've made." The doorway was empty. Where was the door? 4 double doors. 1 palm strike. Just one. Reduced to rubble. I didn't even have time to scream. Yu Tingyuan dragged me along as we continued outside. And this colonnade, this flower wall, this pavilion. I stumbled along the path. Where were the colonnades, flower walls, and pavilions? The ground was littered with rubble and debris. It was A scene of utter devastation. The most infuriating part, Yu Tingyuan pointed at thin air. You destroyed the most precious thing in my mansion. It was a patch of land, a huge pit gouged into the ground, surrounded by scattered tree trunks, branches, and leaves. Another scene of utter devastation. No way. My eyes widened in disbelief. I could forgive you for anything else, but this place, this tree, it was personally transplanted by my imperial sister when I was born. Ever since I turned 3, whenever I caused trouble, she'd tie me to this tree. Standing punishment, whippings, beatings while suspended. This was proof of our deep sisterly bond. Yu Tingyuan picked up a branch and unleashed a vicious beating on me. I'll kill you. I absolutely will kill you. Clutching my head, I dodged and hid, vowing never to drink again. Yu Tingyuan beat me for a full hour before finally tiring. She tossed aside the branch, panting heavily. The roots are still intact, and the trunk isn't broken. I'll replant it for you later, I whispered apologetically. Easy for you to say. What if it dies? Her eyes flashed with fury. Without hesitation, I declared, if it dies, I'll bury myself with it. Forget it! Yu Tingyuan snapped irritably. If you die over a tree, that madman would. She bit her lip. I blinked. What? Nothing. She tossed the branch aside and coldly ordered, plant that tree back properly. If it dies, I'll have my imperial sister come tonight to have a little heart-to-heart with you. With that, she turned to leave. After a few steps, she paused and said in a flat tone, 7 years ago, the northern desert invaded our borders. The Hui clan suffered heavy casualties defending the Great Yin. Your father, your elder brother, even your sister-in-law and nephew, they all died in that great battle. Back then, you were still studying at the academy. Why bring this up now? I didn't grasp her meaning. I remember when the news arrived, you disregarded my sister's pleas and charged thousands of miles to the northern frontier. Wearing mourning robes, you faced the enemy. Not only did you achieve a great victory, but you pursued them for 3,000 li, slaying the Khan of the northern desert's 6 sons. Since then, the northern desert has remained quiet. I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. Nilua, you have fulfilled the promise you made to the imperial sister. Had she been alive, she would have been deeply gratified. You are the pillar of this nation, having rendered great service to the state. Whatever you desire, there is nothing we cannot grant you. I didn't quite grasp what Yu Tingyuan was saying. I also forgot what I said or did after getting drunk. Yet something seemed to have transpired without my knowledge. What exactly occurred, I could not say. But now, another momentous event had unfolded. A truly momentous event. The northern frontier had dispatched envoys to seek a marriage alliance for their crown prince with the Great Yin. They sought the hand of the Great Yin's third princess, Yu Tingyuan. A scheme! It must be a scheme! I flew into a rage. After all these years of lurking in the shadows, why would Mo suddenly seek a marriage alliance? Once Yu Tingyan is wed, what's left to fight for? The succession becomes a mirage, utterly meaningless. I know it's a scheme too, Yu Tingyan said coldly. Yu Qian's move to pull the rug out from under them, that's a brilliant tactic. Such a brilliant tactic, Yu Qian might not have thought of it, but it was someone else's specialty. No! I sprang to my feet. We can't just sit here and wait for disaster. Yu Tingyan asked, where are you going? To find the mastermind. I growled under my breath. Outside the Prime Minister's residence, the bustle today surpassed even the usual commotion. Particularly striking was a lavish carriage parked nearby, its opulence bordered on extravagance, even by the most lenient standards. I paused to glance at it, still pondering the identity of its owner. Then I overheard the gossip from the street corner. We've long heard of the wealth in the southern border, especially in Jiangnan and Jiangdong. This carriage from Jiangdong. Just the pearls dangling from the tassels are as big as a child's fist. But even in the richest places, not just anyone can put on such a display. It must be that Qin family heiress from Jiangdong, the future chancellor's wife. I saw her step down from the carriage. Not only is she breathtakingly beautiful, but she's also gentle and demure. She'd be a perfect match for our chancellor. I bet right now, They're deep in love inside the mansion, he. Unbearable. I stomped down the steps of the Prime Minister's residence, cracking several bricks beneath my feet. The guards and gatekeepers didn't dare move, pretending not to see me. Burning with rage, I charged into the courtyard. Halfway across, I suddenly stumbled back 3 steps. Clang! A projectile fell from the sky, landing just inches from my feet. It was a porcelain vase, its design strangely familiar. The general's residence had one identical. 5 years ago, His Majesty bestowed this imperial kiln vase upon a first-rank noble. Accompanying the projectile was a woman's furious roar. Pei Jingqing! You fox spirit! You treacherous demon! I'd marry a pig or a dog before I'd marry you. The main hall lay in utter disarray. Shattered porcelain, broken jade ornaments, and fragments of calligraphy and paintings littered the floor. Amidst the debris stood a young woman. Dressed in a soft yellow court gown, she appeared gentle, yet her brows were furrowed with fierce anger. One hand clenched at her waist, the other pointed accusingly at the man seated in the chair as she hurled insults without restraint. The man she pointed at remained impassive, sipping tea with elegant composure, utterly unaffected. Don't think I've forgotten what you did. Mark my words, even if I die and am buried, I'll claw at the coffin lid and curse you every single day. Ahem! I cleared my throat from the doorway. Who's there? The woman whipped her head around, her gaze locking with mine. Our eyes met, and for a moment, neither spoke. 1, 2, 3. I silently counted to 3 in my mind. Her lips moved slightly as she murmured, "Boss." After that single word, she snapped back to her senses. Boss. That warm, tender glow rushed toward me. A jade pendant dangled from her sash, swaying gently as she ran. Her arms tightened fiercely around my waist. I peered over her shoulder at Pei Jingqing. He seemed to snort coldly. Boss. Boss. I've missed you for 10 years, longed for you for 10 years. Finally, I see you. The soft, fragrant jade in my arms poured out her heart to me. I raised my hand and patted her shoulder. All right, Linger, you're squeezing my waist too hard. The arms around my waist loosened slightly. Qin Ling looked up at me, her eyes brimming with tears. But I missed you. I dreamed of you. How did she beat you? The abrupt voice came from Pei Jingqing. He held his teacup, blowing gently on the steam. She beat you for me. That's something worth remembering. Shut your mouth, you fox spirit. Qin Ling snarled fiercely. The boss was deceived by you. Who knew you were such a master of deception? You're a born schemer and scoundrel. You deserve to lose your wife. You're a wife killer and a family disaster. The words hit me like a punch, leaving me speechless. I'm a wife killer? Pei Jingqing's deep, piercing eyes fixed on me. Am I? Me. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. If not you, then who? Qin Ling retorted, for someone like you, it's a miracle any woman would marry you. She must be blind as a bat, mesmerized by your pretty face. If she had any sense, she wouldn't have ended up your wife. You two are a perfect match, one blind as a bat, the other all show and no substance. In the end, a short-lived ghost and a widower, a perfect pair. Whoa! I sucked in a sharp breath. Boss. Qin Ling supported me. What's wrong? Why are you clutching your chest? Does it hurt? I pressed my hand over my heart, forcing a smile. It's just boomerangs. Full of arrows. Huh? Qin Ling didn't get it. Pei Jingqing chuckled softly. General Hu probably feels the same way. Qin Ling glared at him. Who wants to empathize with you? Don't flatter yourself. All right, all right. I intervened. Stop arguing. Especially you, Linger, hold your tongue. Every word hit the mark, right in the bullseye. It genuinely hurt. Boss, why are you still taking his side? I can say whatever I want. Qin Ling pouted, reluctantly conceding, he knows we're incompatible, yet he still wants to marry me. I'll never marry him. Fine, fine, no marriage. I brushed it off, glancing at Pei Jingqing before turning back to Qin Ling. Step outside. I need to speak with him. I'll wait for you outside. Qin Ling tugged at my sleeve, shaking it. Hurry up, okay? I'll be waiting. I stroked her hair soothingly. After Qin Ling left, I finally could set my face stern and confront him. Was it your idea to propose marriage to the Crown Prince of Mo Bay? Yes. He admitted it plainly. My initial rage had been boiling over. Qin Ling had already extinguished 80% of it, and his straightforward admission caused the remaining 20% to fizzle out. Each serves their own master. He had pulled the rug out from under me with his ingenious schemes. What recourse did I have? The Northern Desert's marriage proposal is now a done deal. Barring any surprises, His Majesty will make his decision by tomorrow's morning court at the latest. Care to guess whether he'll approve the alliance or reject it? I remained silent. There was no need to guess. The Northern Desert and Great Yin had been adversaries for a century, with the Northern Desert suffering more defeats than victories, save for that one battle 7 years ago. Now they seek a marriage alliance, promising that should the princess consent to wed, they would relinquish their national title and submit as vassals to the Great Yin. Thus, the two nations would achieve eternal peace, their bloodlines intertwined. Such immense benefit, the old emperor had no reason to refuse. But, the northern wastes harbor wolfish ambitions, they cannot possibly submit sincerely, I said through gritted teeth. The Hui clan has guarded the northern frontier for generations, battling the northern desert for over a century. We know them best. All this talk of abolishing their state title and submitting is just a northern desert ploy. They'll use the Great Yin princess to buy decades of respite, only to rebuild their strength and wage war again. No one demands genuine submission. What this minister has always sought is mere pretense, Pei Jingqing said calmly. Me. This wasn't just talk, it wasn't just insinuation, it wasn't just sarcasm. Setting down his teacup, Pei Jingqing looked at me. One thing, it may seem disadvantageous at first glance, but upon careful consideration, it might actually work to your advantage. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean? Maneuvering and mind games were never my forte. You wish to know? He inquired. Without awaiting my reply, he continued indifferently, this stratagem to turn defeat into victory in an instant, this lord will not share with outsiders. Only my inner circle shall hear it. I snapped. What wife do you have? My late wife, she was my wife. Pei Jingqing glanced at me. Though she's not here now, perhaps she'll meet me in my dreams when the night grows still. What kind of madness is this man spouting? Just as I debated whether to roll up my sleeves and force an answer, I suddenly froze. Deep in the night, meeting in dreams? Was he hinting at something? Minister Pei had never been polite to General Hua. After saying what he wished, he had me escorted out without a second thought. I left the Prime Minister's residence, glancing back every few steps, still pondering his words. Boss. The carriage curtain lifted as Qin Ling waved at me. Hop in. Hop in. Distracted, I climbed aboard. Qin Ling wrapped her arm around mine, clearly displeased. How many years has it been? You still protect that fox spirit. Boss, look at me. We've been apart for 7 years. After I left the academy, the others gradually returned home too, and I never saw them again. As Qin Ling nagged, I glanced at her and nodded. You look much prettier than back then. I've always been pretty. Just not as good-looking as Pei Jingqing. Humph, his face? That can't possibly be human. Her words still dripped with resentment. Boss Qin Ling leaned in, her voice full of frustration. What should I do? My father wants me to marry Pei Jingqing. He says the fourth prince is pushing for it. I don't want to marry him. Boss, why don't you just beat him to death? He's a deadbeat widower anyway, married before and cursed his wife. No, no, no. I quickly cut her off. Don't you dare say those 2 words again, cursed and dead. You don't want to marry him, and neither do I. As long as he explicitly refuses to wed you, this match can't proceed. You don't want me to marry him? Qin Ling's eyes lit up as she threw her arms around me. Big sis, you're so kind. I'm in such a bind. Satisfied, Qin Ling hummed. This lady has 10,000 ways to torment him until he can't marry me. I gazed at her pretty eyes and couldn't help teasing her. I wonder where this deep-seated hatred comes from. After all, you were playmates for years at the academy. Within the academy, only you treated him as a playmate. Only you thought he was fragile and pitiful. But big sis, you don't know, he's actually a coiled, motionless venomous snake. Qin Ling's expression turned serious as she continued, we kept our distance not because we bullied him, but because we feared him. With that, she began recounting numerous incidents from the past. From initially mistaking him for a harmless, delicate daughter vine, we later discovered he was a carnivorous flower with a heart of pitch-black venom. If childhood matters seem insignificant, then do you know, big brother, how he became the head of the Pei family? I paused slightly. He was the legitimate son and grandson of the current generation of the Pei family. He should naturally be the head. Qin Ling sneered coldly. I thought so too at first. It wasn't until I left the academy and returned to Jiangdong that I happened to hear my father mention his glorious past. In the early days of the Dayan dynasty, the emperor relied on the aristocratic clans to secure his throne. Though this helped establish the empire, it also sowed seeds of trouble. Imperial power gradually waned, and the clans grew bold and powerful. 30 years ago, the crown prince of Dayan offered half the kingdom as dowry to marry Princess Zhao Huang, who governed the southwest. Princess Zhao Huang possessed southern frontier bloodlines, where matriarchy prevailed. Upon marrying into the imperial family, she established a dual sovereign system. She bore 2 princesses and 1 prince, who tragically died in infancy. She designated her eldest daughter as crown princess and supported her in reforming the legal code, elevating women's status, weakening regional warlords, and achieving equality across the realm. The aristocratic clans could not tolerate the imperial princess and the empress. They united their forces, launching repeated impeachments and even threatening to raise armies to force their demands. Qin Ling sighed, but ultimately, it was His Majesty who changed his heart. He married the Empress Dowager to seize half the empire, then used her to suppress the aristocratic clans. He then married the daughter of an aristocratic clan to use her against the Empress Dowager. You know how it ended. Of course I know. Empress Zhao Huang passed away from illness. The imperial princess was executed. The aristocratic factions that drove both the empress and the imperial princess to their deaths were led by the Pei clan. Yet Pei Jingqing was never the legitimate son or grandson of the Pei family. The night was as cool as water. Qin Ling lay half reclined on me, sleeping soundly. The aristocratic clans had their own estates within the imperial capital, yet Qin Ling insisted on staying in the general's mansion. She even wanted to share a bed with me, just like when we were children. Sharing a bed wasn't the problem. The problem was, I had to slip away quickly. I carefully shifted Qin Ling's arm aside, just as I was about to rise, only to be pulled back down by her. Mumbling in her sleep, Qin Ling mumbled, "Big brother, I missed you." The jade pendant, rubbed daily, has developed a patina. I couldn't help but chuckle, patting her back before gently nudging her back into place. Dressed in my night attire, I pushed open the window and leapt out. I landed lightly outside the main chamber of the Prime Minister's residence. I'd intended to push the door open and enter, but then I remembered last time, completely unprepared, I'd witnessed a scene straight out of a painting. This time, surely I wouldn't be so unlucky. I pried open a small crack, just about to peek inside, when I heard Pei Jingqing say, "Come in." As I climbed through the window, I couldn't help but grumble, "How long has it been? How can you still smell it? You're back." He approached me holding a teacup, his gentle smile warm. "Tired? Care for some? Autumn's here, and nights are chilly. The water's still warm, have a sip first." Me. What kind of madness is this? His smile remained unchanged, his tone as gentle as ever. "You've been out so long, and the moment you return, you throw a tantrum. Be good. Drink the water first. I'll bring you some porridge." The cup was thrust into my hand. Sure enough, it was warm. But, what was he up to? I couldn't fathom his game, but the water was already in my hand, and I was genuinely thirsty after dashing through the night. Gulp, gulp, 2 swallows and it was gone. "The porridge is still warm. Wash your hands first, then come eat." He stood by the table, lifting the lid of the food container. Pei Jingqing, haven't you always called me Qingqing? He slowly brought out the porridge bowl, his voice warm. I like it when you call me that. I froze in shock. Moments later, his meaning dawned on me. Junqing and the wife waiting for him, this moment was a dream he'd created for both of us. Realizing this, I fell silent for an instant. The tug-of-war in my heart could finally be set aside for now. I pressed my hands to my cheeks and took a deep breath. The air was filled with the faint, sweet scent of orchids and musk. I lifted my eyes, smiling as I narrowed them. I'm starving. What else is there besides porridge? Why don't you come see for yourself? He turned to smile at me. Go wash your hands. I dashed to the copper basin, gave my hands a quick rinse, and shook them off, still damp. Then I sat down at the table. Steamed fish, smoked rabbit, bamboo shoots stewed with duck. All my favorites. I looked up at him. Did you make all this? Naturally, he drew a handkerchief from his sleeve, gently wiping my hands as he smiled. You wouldn't find it to your liking if someone else made it. His fingers closed around mine. That familiar yet strangely unfamiliar tingling sensation seeped through my skin, coursing through my veins straight to the core of my being. Cold? He asked. My fingers trembled, but not from the chill. Qingqing, I called his name. He tilted his head, smiling at me. I gazed into his striking eyes and finally found the words I'd kept hidden in my heart. I miss you so much. He tightened his grip on my hand and whispered, me too. We gazed at each other, then smiled at each other. I leaned forward and kissed his forehead. He tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. Eat first. The porridge will get cold. I picked up my chopsticks, sipping the porridge and eating the vegetables. In another month, winter will arrive, I remarked casually. I'd planned to hunt a silver fox for your cloak before then. I'd even arranged it with the tailor in town. A silver fox cloak, he pondered. I don't think I have one of those. I know you don't, I said, chewing on a bamboo shoot tip and steering clear of the main point, but any fox fur will keep you warm through winter. Just layer up. He hummed in acknowledgement, moving past the topic. We chatted idly, until the dishes on the table and the bowls of porridge were completely empty. Leave it. We'll tidy up tomorrow. Go wash up and get ready for bed, he said. I let out a soft ah. Was he suggesting we sleep together? I hadn't misunderstood, nor had he misspoken, he was indeed suggesting we sleep together. I slipped into my nightclothes and lay down in the quilted bedding, beside me. Jun Qingyu, wrapped in his own nightclothes. The candle had been extinguished, plunging the bed curtains into complete darkness. I couldn't sleep, nor could he. We both knew it. Qingqing, I began, my voice slightly dry, may I hold your hand? He murmured his consent, reaching out to clasp mine tightly. Our fingers interlocked once more, our warmth soothing each other. My tension eased, and I rolled over. Whispering softly, Qingqing, shall I tell you a ghost story? Aren't you a ghost yourself? He rolled over too, his nose brushing against mine. My late wife. I bumped my forehead against his, pouting, dead people don't appear in dreams. Dreams are for the living. I'm perfectly warm and alive, yet you insist on stuffing me into a coffin. Too hot? He slipped his hand beneath my nightgown. Let me check. His skin was icy cold. I gasped and giggled, no, it's so cold, stop, my words protested, but my body offered no resistance. When he pressed his entire weight onto me, my breath caught. My arms wrapped tightly around his neck, refusing to let go. I'm cold, you're warm. Want to warm up? I keep warm, you contribute? He asked. Can we do this in a dream? I asked, knowing full well the answer. Never heard the poem? He kissed my ear, his smile soft and bewitching. Spring dreams leave no trace. I lifted my chin, my neck a constant target for his nibbles and licks. Bite gently, don't leave marks. Ghosts do as they please in the dead of night. I still have to face people by day. If one skips a single meal, food seems ordinary. If one goes a day without eating, they might devour everything in sight. If one starves for months, the result is likely to be reckless, devouring everything, bone and flesh alike, leaving not a scrap behind. Before exhaustion pulled me into deep sleep, I mumbled, "What time do you usually wake from your dreams?" "Very late," he murmured, his voice low and sated. "I love lingering in bed, not rising early." "That's good." I drifted straight into unconsciousness. It had been ages since I'd slept so soundly. When I awoke the next day, it wasn't morning, nor noon, the sun was setting, twilight falling. My heart gave a start. I rolled over, trying to sit up. Pain. My back. My legs. "Pei Jingqing, you energy-sucking monster." Clutching my aching waist, I sat up and spotted a set of clothes at the foot of the bed. And a letter beside the pillow. The handwriting on the envelope made my teeth grind. Last time it was the same envelope, the same script, opening it felt like a bolt from the blue. This time, surely not. Hesitating, I picked it up. Hesitating, I tore it open. Hesitating, I glanced at the contents. This time, it wasn't 7 words. There was one more, 8. To seek the princess, the crown prince must come personally. To request the marriage of the 3rd princess, the crown prince of the northern wastes must come to escort her. That must be the meaning, right? But what difference would it make? Even if the crown prince came, the princess would still have to marry. Then let her marry. Yu Tingyuan showed no sign of urgency. When the northern desert envoy arrived, Yu Tingyuan publicly agreed she could marry. But as a princess of the Great Yin, she couldn't marry without proper formality. She would only consent to a peace marriage beyond the frontier if the northern desert crown prince came personally to propose. The envoy was straightforward, stating that as long as the princess agreed to the marriage alliance, the crown prince would set out for Yin immediately. Both sides negotiated with remarkable ease and flexibility. I was utterly dumbfounded. "You actually believe those 8 words?" I pressed Yu Tingyuan. "He who tied the bell must untie it. Whoever devised the scheme surely knows how to undo it. Rather than struggling to break free, it's wiser to heed the advice. Especially since you sacrificed so much for this brilliant plan." Yu Tingyuan pointed to the base of his own throat. "You two really do have peculiar tastes." I immediately covered my mouth, pretending not to understand. Personal matters could be feigned ignorance about, but other things, I was well aware. Yu Tingyuan and Pei Jingqing had already spoken. What they discussed remained unknown. For now, Yu Qian hadn't defected. Their relationship seemed more like a partnership. While Yu Tingyuan's side remained stable, Yu Qian's camp was bustling with activity. He was simultaneously urging Pei Jingqing to marry Qin Ling and pushing for the crown prince of the northern frontier to wed Yu Tingyuan. He was quite the matchmaker. Alas, Pei Jingqing remained unyielding, and the crown prince of the north couldn't traverse 1,000 miles in a day. Some matters, no matter how meticulously planned, cannot withstand the suddenness of change. Just as Yu Qian was running around frantically, a piece of bad news entered the imperial capital. The crown prince of the north was dead. On his journey to receive the bride, he perished within the borders of Dayan, inside a post station. 14 stab wounds pierced his body, tendons severed in his hands and feet, a truly gruesome death. The day the calamity was announced, it struck everyone like a bolt from the blue. That very night, I entered Pei Jingqing's dreams. Sweaty, I clung to his shoulder, tracing circles on his collarbone with my fingers. "Tonight. Is this my reward?" He slowly stroked my hair. "Don't you feel guilty saying that?" I panted in protest. From the first day of the month, I had slept in his dreams for 14 nights. And today? The 15th night, the full moon. How else to say it? Self-deception is the most useful thing. In dreams, anything is possible. He chuckled softly, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. His lips lingered on my brow. "Cherish it," he murmured. "The days we meet in dreams are numbered." I closed my eyes, saying nothing. The crown prince of the northern desert perished in Great Yin, his life lost in a failed marriage proposal. Forget about aliencing through marriage, peace between our realms is impossible for all eternity. The northern desert will rise to attacking in the blink of an eye. Truthfully, I fear neither war nor fighting the northern desert. I murmured lazily. 7 years ago, while I was campaigning abroad, the aristocratic clans and the Empress Dowager were locked in their fiercest struggle. The internal strife was so severe it prevented me from pursuing the enemy further. Otherwise, the northern desert as we know it today would have ceased to exist long ago. I know. You're a natural military genius, a god of war on the battlefield. He spoke these words, then kissed my eyes again. Now that the northern desert invades our borders, it is heaven's will to destroy them. No, besides heaven's intent, there's also the merit of someone's meticulous calculations. That someone chuckled. My lady flatters me. I'm merely a house husband in the inner quarters, easing my wife's burdens. I opened my eyes and leaned in to kiss his chin. My dearest Ching is truly virtuous. My virtues extend far beyond virtue. I manage our household with wisdom, and my devotion knows no regret. He lowered his gaze to meet mine. Even if you were to die, I would meet you nightly in my dreams. But if I were to die, what then? Hey, I'm not dead. Swallowing that retort, I deliberately provoked him. If you died, I'd forget you instantly and find a husband 100 times better than you. He didn't seem annoyed, just sighed and said, my intellect surpasses all in this world. Finding a man 100 times better than me? That's unlikely. I meant to provoke him, but he made me laugh instead. Fine, I'll find one your equal. That too will be difficult, he said, for my beauty is peerless. Is it okay to brag about your own looks? I decided bluntly. Then how about I find someone exactly like you? That could work, he said earnestly. All are but your substitutes. Out of options, I grabbed his hand and shoved it under the covers. It's only the 4th watch. Must you wake? No. He rolled over and pressed down, his hand unapologetic. Continue our intimacy. Continue our dream. Just as I'd expected. 7 days later, military dispatches arrived. But these dispatches weren't one, they were two. Both the northern border defenses and the northeastern defenses were intimidated by the vast armies of the northern frontier. The Hu family's forces had long garrisoned the northern border, while the 4 states of Yanyan in the northeast were Yuting Yuan's fiefdom. Something's wrong. A flash of insight seized my mind. The northern desert has never attacked the Yanyan 4 provinces. Why are they splitting their forces to press our borders this time? Dispersing troops is a cardinal sin in siege warfare. The northern desert's advance is fierce. They would never make such a reckless strategic blunder. I couldn't grasp the crux of it, and Yutingjian's expression was equally grave. Until a viscous laugh echoed. Naturally, because this prince requires them to press the border in 2 columns. Yu Qian entered leisurely, his face adorned with an eerie smile. The moment I saw Yu Qian and heard his words, I felt my heart skip a beat. Something, unraveled layer by layer, gradually revealed its true form. What should we do? As if sensing my and Yuting Yuan's panic, Yu Qian laughed lazily. You two will both have to take the battlefield. This war, I intend for the northern desert to fight for 3 years, not just one. Third sister, do you think you'll make it back alive? In a flash, I nearly roared. What kind of collusion have you struck with the northern desert? Yu Qian's grin revealed teeth as white as bone. To tie you down. To wear you down. Once I ascend the throne, I'll hand the 6 northern provinces to the Khan of the northern wastes. Yu Qian. Forgetting all propriety, I grabbed his collar. You dare? The northern frontier's defenses were built upon the bones of the Hu clan. Its lands were paved with the flesh and blood of countless soldiers. How dare he? How could he dare? Pei Jingqing. Yu Tingyuan spoke suddenly. Her cold gaze fixed on Yu Qian. This was Pei Jingqing's scheme, wasn't it? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the sparrow behind. It was a colossal chain of conspiracies. You only have yourselves to blame for trusting him too much. Yu Qian pushed my hand away, sneering contemptuously. What Pei Jingqing craved was to unite the power of the aristocratic clans with imperial authority. He sought to be second only to the emperor, yet you could never grant him that. Seeing our silence, Yu Qian grew even more brazen, as if he could seize the dragon throne and rule the empire at any moment. But what awaited him next was neither the throne nor the empire. It was news no one could have anticipated. The Jiangnan River pirates had revolted, and the garrison forces had collapsed. What had once been only the northern and northeastern borders teetering on the brink now saw even Jiangnan plunged into chaos. The old emperor coughed up blood repeatedly under the weight of several military reports. Within the bedchamber, the heavy scent of medicine mingled with the stench of blood, making it hard to breathe. Imperial physicians bustled back and forth in a flurry of activity. Bright yellow gauze curtains separated the son of heaven from his ministers. The north, the northeast. And I Luo, Ting Yao, you must quell this rebellion. Jiang. Cough. The Jiangnan rebellion. Qi Yan. Cough. You must go. Yu Qiyan, kneeling on the floor, suddenly raised his head. Father Emperor, your majesty is unwell. Your son cannot leave the capital. Listen to me. The old emperor gasped for breath in 3 separate bursts. Jiangnan. You must go. Father Emperor. 4th Prince. The only one not kneeling was Pei Jingqing, standing guard before the gauze curtain. His voice was cold. His Majesty's words are not seeking your opinion, but an imperial decree. Pei Jingqing. Yu Qiyan glared at him with venom. 4th Prince, you should obey the decree and go to Jiangnan to quell the rebellion. Pei Jingqing paid no heed to his anger. The old emperor gasped for breath again before continuing, for your campaigns. All military provisions shall be prepared by Minister Pei. I have instructed him. He understands. Pei Jingqing wasn't the only one who understood. Everyone present understood. The proverb about the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, it was all wrong. This was a chess game. We were all pieces, and Pei Jingqing was the hand moving them. As we left the palace, Yu Tingyuan suddenly asked, now, would you still offer your neck for him to bite? I remained silent, offering no answer to her question. The day we marched out was a rare clear day in late autumn, without wind or waves. 3 armies departed the capital through 3 separate gates. Yu Tingyuan, Yu Qiyan, and I never crossed paths. But I made no haste to depart. Standing atop the city gate, I watched the serpentine procession grow ever more distant. I stood there for 3 full hours. From dawn until dusk. Only when the last contingent was fully prepared and ready to exit did the deputy commander approach me, whispering, General, it's time to go. Wait a little longer, I said. How much longer, sir? He asked. 1 more stick of incense. If he doesn't come by then, I won't wait any longer. Having said this, I ordered him to light the incense. A stick of incense was lit. It burned shorter and shorter, thinner and thinner. The originally windless, fine weather suddenly stirred up a breeze. With the wind's help, the incense burned faster. The tiny red flame burned down to the end. I lowered my head and gave a bitter smile. Forget it. I won't wait. He won't come. I turned and started down the steps to the lower city wall. Just as I took my first step, at the very bottom of the stairs, a peerless beauty in white robes, untouched by dust, gazed at me with a faint expression. 3 hours and 1 incense stick. He began climbing the steps, speaking as he ascended, that's all I'm worth. Well, I should have known long ago what place I hold in your heart, and accepted my fate. By the time he finished, he stood directly before me. I had so many questions to ask him, yet in this moment, no words came. After a brief silence, I spoke. 1,500 soldiers marching in 2 columns, advancing in standard military step, would take roughly half a quarter of an hour to exit the city gates. Your math is sound. He offered a neutral assessment. Therefore, I fixed my gaze upon him. We have another quarter of an hour. That long is unnecessary. I'll grant us only 1 sentence each. He offered me a faint smile. You first. Fine. At this juncture, 1,000 words pale beside the final one. I spoke first. I picked up a small wooden box from the ground and handed it to him. This is something I've wanted to give you for a very long time. It's for you, not for Jun Qingyu, not for Pei Jingqing, but solely for you. Compared to the empire, it's insignificant. It's light, yet it's the one thing I most want to give you, the only thing I can truly offer. Handing him the box, I said, your turn. The final line. He weighed the box in his hand and sighed. It really is light. Me, that's it? He glanced at me. We agreed 1 line each. You went over. A single line can be 100 words or 10,000. And you give me just 4? Pei Jingqing, do you even have a heart? Furious, I lost my composure on the spot. Fine, I'll add 1 more. He gave me a gentle, faint smile, speaking softly and deliberately, but it's heavy enough. Me. Maybe I should just die on the battlefield and truly become his lost wife. After 7 days of marching, I returned to the northern frontier. The very next day, we faced the northern desert head-on. From then on, we fought countless battles, large and small. Supplies and provisions never ran short. Yu Tingyuan's letters reported no trouble. Meanwhile, in the southern campaigns, victory followed victory. Pei Jingqing balanced the 3 sides perfectly, showing no bias or hidden cruelty, utterly unlike his usual style. The 3 major campaigns raged for over 2 months, only yielding a decisive outcome as winter set in. I had intended to remain in the northern frontier to reorganize military affairs, but a secret missive from the imperial capital shattered my plans. The emperor is gravely ill, in mortal danger. I swiftly arranged the garrison and marched the army back to the capital at breakneck speed. At the border where the north met the northeast, I joined forces with Yu Tingyuan. News flowed constantly along the way. I knew that while we raced back, Yu Qian was also on the march. Now, it all hinged on who could enter the capital first before the emperor's demise. The first to enter the city would seize the realm. We journeyed day and night, arriving at the imperial capital's outskirts just as Yu Qian's southern garrison forces arrived. Both armies faced off outside the city walls, eyes fixed on each other like predatory beasts. At that very moment, boom, 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 9 mournful tolls echoed across the heavens and earth. The great Yin emperor had passed away. The tightly sealed city gates slowly opened. Officials clad in mourning robes knelt along both sides of the imperial avenue as Pei Jingqing stepped out at a measured pace. In his hand, he held an imperial edict of bright yellow. Countless eyes fixed upon that edict. The name inscribed upon it would determine the next ruler of this vast realm, spanning sun and moon, mountains and rivers. Pei Jingqing stepped through the city gates, raising the edict high. All soldiers knelt in unison. The Son of Heaven has passed. The mountains and rivers tremble. This servant, obeying the late emperor's command, now proclaims the imperial decree. He unfolded the edict and read aloud. All held their breath, waiting to hear whose name Pei Jingqing would utter, hers or his. Perhaps feeling the unprecedented pressure, Pei Jingqing paused before reaching the final line. His gaze swept over the crowd, resting on me last. He met my eyes and spoke slowly. Therefore, the emperor's 3rd daughter, Yu Tingyuan, of gentle virtue and benevolent wisdom, shall be the sovereign of the great Yin dynasty. It was the depths of winter. Over his white official robes, he wore a simple fox fur cloak. It was indeed light. But it carried enough weight. Before the city gates, with officials bearing witness and 10,000 troops assembled, Pei Jingqing publicly proclaimed Yu Tingyuan's succession. Yu Qian naturally refused to accept it. Yet the imperial edict was written in black and white, clear as day. What could he do, even if he protested? In terms of military might, his Jiangnan army wasn't even worth a flick of my finger. By now, even a fool could see which side Pei Jingqing truly stood on. Yu Qian, stripped of the throne, could not swallow his humiliation. At that critical moment, he denounced Pei Jingqing on the spot. The Jiangnan army was privately recruited by Pei Jingqing. There was no banditry in Jiangnan. He deceived our late father, deceived the 3 provinces, and deceived your majesty. When Pei Jingqing claimed banditry in Jiangnan and used 150,000 taels to recruit troops, it was nothing but treason. The crime of treason has never been forgiven. The first act of the empress upon ascending the throne was to have Pei Jingqing, who had proclaimed her imperial status, thrown into death row. This sudden turn of events caught everyone off guard. I sought to plead for Pei Jingqing, but Yutingyuan remained unmoved. Left with no choice, I knelt at the entrance to the Imperial Library. The ladies-in-waiting attending Yutingyuan repeatedly urged me. General Hua, why persist? The Empress is also in a difficult position. Her Majesty is in a difficult position, and so am I. Since we're both in a difficult position, what's stopping us from meeting? My resolve was firm, unshaken. I knelt from dawn until dusk, then from dusk until dawn, until the eastern sky began to lighten. The gates of the Imperial Library finally opened. Yutingyuan now wore imperial regalia, her expression bearing an unprecedented resolve. I told you long ago the 3 reasons why Pei Jingqing could not be tolerated. Originally, he might have been spared. But now, what am I to do? It's not that I won't protect him, it's that I can no longer protect him. Having gone without sleep for a day and night, I could only open my mouth after hearing these words. My voice was rough and gravelly, like sand and stone. So, Your Majesty, how do you wish to deal with him? Yutingyuan stood with her hands behind her back, speaking calmly. Grant him some dignity. Grant him death. In this life, I could still hear that word. Granted death. It seemed everyone important to me met the same fate. You may personally deliver the medicine. Allowing you to see him one last time is my final concession. The weight drained from my shoulders, my spine buckling under grief. A faint, bitter laugh escaped me. Then I should truly thank Your Majesty on his behalf. The death cell was utterly desolate. A chill born of despair and death clung to the bones, an icy coldness impossible to shake. In the deepest recesses of the dungeon, I found Pei Jingqing. 26 hours and 3.5 quarters, he complained through the bars. I've waited for you far longer than you've waited for me. I said nothing, unlocked the chains, and pushed open the cell door. Thick layers of withered grass covered the floor. He sat cross-legged upon it, clad in his familiar white robes. I knelt before him, reaching out to fasten his fox fur cloak. You only know how to care for me. How could you not notice your cloak was askew? How can you keep warm like this? It's winter now. You suffer from cold sensitivity. You can't endure the chill. Truthfully, I knew you'd come the moment you stepped into the celestial prison. He smiled. I caught your scent and knew you were here. I deliberately let my cloak slip askew. I love seeing you fret over me. When you worry, your eyes hold only me. Linger said you're the master of feigning innocence, tricking me into favoring you. It seems she was right. A fox spirit through and through. She's just jealous. Even if she played innocent, you'd still favor me. Long ago, I knew you saw only me, because back then, my heart was filled with you. I didn't see the white silk. Must be poison. Hand it over. He chattered on, then abruptly changed the subject. I froze. He still smiled, extending his hand. Nilua, bring it out. My hands clenched tightly, my arms trembling slightly. Seeing my inaction, he simply took matters into his own hands. Pei Jingqing. I grabbed his wrist. His smile remained unchanged as he slowly, deliberately wrenched his wrist free. He turned his palm upward, revealing a delicate little porcelain bottle. I suppose this poison is the same one used to execute the imperial princess back then? He asked. My heart felt like crumpled paper, torn and mangled beyond repair. I was one of those who forced the imperial princess to her death. Now, to die by the same poison as her, it's a fitting repayment for her life. From this day forward, there will be no more hatred between us. He uncorked the bottle, smiling softly. You gave me a cloak, I give you a kingdom. For you, I'll give up everything. Nilua, even without me, there are still beauties across the land. You must live for them, guide them. Women must always help other women, right? Don't die. Don't abandon them for me. You know. My eyes burned crimson. You know my decision. I know, he smiled again, a beauty I'd never seen before. But Nilua, it won't do. You must live. Though love weighs heavy, it cannot outweigh loyalty. Through the ages, millennia upon millennia, they've suffered too long, waited too long. Live on, for them, for all of you. Live on. He raised the porcelain bottle to his lips. Smiling, speaking, he drank it all in one gulp. The bottle fell onto the pile of dry grass, empty. He lay across my lap, his gaze fixed on the narrow iron bars. Nilua, he called softly, then murmured, I'm growing drowsy. I'd like to sleep now. Are you still here? Stay with me, or I won't rest easy. Nilua, it's so dark here. I haven't seen light in so long. I'm closing my eyes. I should drift off soon. Nilua, Nilua, is it snowing? Fragmented snowflakes drifted in through the cracks. I gently smoothed the soft fur of his cloak, answering phrase by phrase, I'm still here, my dear, I'm still with you. It's night now, there's no light. Wait a few more hours, and the sun will rise. Sleep now, sleep. Silver fox fur was dotted with snowflakes. I pinched a small flake and placed it in my mouth. So bitter. End. General above. Epilogue. In the early years of the Yonyuan era, the former court's senior minister, Pei Jingqing, was granted death. Pei Jingqing had privately recruited soldiers in Jiangnan, implicating the entire Pei clan. The empress, enraged, used this as a pretext to purge the Pei faction from the court. The purge then extended to other aristocratic families who had colluded with the Peis. As one rose, all rose, as one fell, all fell. With Pei Jingqing's death, the aristocratic clans lost their former glory. But what did all this have to do with Huanilua? Everyone knew Huanilua and Pei Jingqing were bitter enemies, sworn adversaries. Thus, after Pei Jingqing's death, Huanilua indulged in debauchery for a long time. Until that day. In a brothel, Huanilua was struck by the breathtaking beauty of a young courtesan. That very night, he stayed in the courtesan's room, and the next day, he paid 10,000 taels of gold to buy her freedom. It was said that this young courtesan possessed such exquisite beauty that she bore a 99% resemblance to Pei Jingqing, who had been executed by imperial decree. What 99%? In the tea house, Qin Ling listened halfway through the storyteller's narration before bursting into loud sobs. It's a dead ringer. The boss actually liked Pei Jingqing? She actually liked Pei Jingqing. He's dead, and she still needs a stand-in to love. Why not a woman? Is gender that rigid? I could have stayed with her till the end. Wah. The once bustling scene fell deathly silent. How about this? Someone chuckled awkwardly to the storyteller, ignore her and keep going. So then, General Hu fell for the male courtesan? The storyteller cleared his throat and continued, General Hua, a heroine among women, a phoenix among mortals, yet she too couldn't overcome the barrier of love. Defying her status, she resolutely vowed to marry the male courtesan. Whoa! Someone cheered. Ladies and gentlemen, though our great Yin kingdom upholds monogamy, the vast disparity in their social standing caused a citywide scandal. Even His Majesty the Empress learned of it. We're screwed. Someone slammed the table. Her Majesty will surely break up this love match. You're spot on. The bond between Her Majesty and General Hu transcends mere sovereign and subject, it's a soulmate connection. She was so furious she smashed the imperial seal. The storyteller tapped his fan against his palm with dramatic flair, his expression grave. Bullshit, Qin Ling snorted, sniffling. She was just taking the chance to toss those unread memorials. The imperial seal is too precious, the Empress would never smash it. The storyteller continued with solemn conviction, that's why they say General Hu is perfect in every way, except he's a hopeless romantic. Even after the Emperor flew into such a rage, she wouldn't back down. Finally, he was pushed to his limit and declared, I give you a choice. If you do not marry that man, I shall grant you the title of Grand General King. But if you refuse to marry him, you will return to guard the northern frontier tomorrow. You are forbidden to summon me or return to the capital. Humph, Qin Ling gritted her teeth. That part was spot on. So, what did the general choose? Someone immediately asked. The storyteller sighed, shook his head, and gave a wry smile. What else could he choose? Not loving the empire, but loving the beauty. Ooh, a wave of murmurs rippled through the tea house. Outside the tea house, a carriage moved slowly by. The curtains remained tightly drawn. Moments later, a finger, as delicate as jade, pushed them aside slightly. Smack! The hand was slapped, and the finger retracted instantly. Seated beside him, a woman in crimson martial attire sighed helplessly. "We haven't even left the imperial capital yet. Behave yourself. What if someone sees?" "So what if they see?" The celestial-looking man seemed utterly unconcerned, yet his eyes sparkled with amusement. "Are you worried I might tarnish the general's pristine reputation?" "I beg you, Ching, please stop this." The red-clad woman made a gesture of surrender. "If you keep this up, I'll get goosebumps all over. Haven't you heard what people say about you?" The celestial-looking man grinned slyly. General He, love-struck. For a mere courtesan, he even turned down becoming the first non-imperial prince of the Great Yin dynasty. Humph. The red-clad woman's face remained stony as she let out a cold laugh. "If I'm love-struck, then you must be the very ancestor of passion." The celestial-looking man leaned close, biting her neck. "I'm happy to be one. Who's to say otherwise?" The carriage swayed its way out of the city. Voices inside grew louder. It was supposed to be a staged performance, yet the outcome differs so drastically. "Nilua, is the general's enfeoffment scheduled for next year?" "Next year was agreed with His Majesty." This title of General-in-Chief must be accepted. If I am not enfeoffed as a prince, how can any woman ascend to the throne after me? I am the precedent. I am the new system. Above my head lies the sky every woman in the realm can strive to reach. And, General above, trading life for love. When Yu Tingyuan received Pei Jingqing's secret letter, when Nilua had just finished her first round of drunken antics and was taking a break. Entrusting Nilua to a maidservant, she changed her clothes and slipped away to meet him. Pei Jingqing had arranged to meet her atop the bell tower at the very center of the imperial capital. The night wind howled fiercely. Standing behind Pei Jingqing, Yu Tingyuan knew that with just a push, she could send this powerless man tumbling down to certain death or injury. "I advise you not to harm me, at least, not now," Pei Jingqing said, his back to Yu Tingyuan, yet sensing her murderous intent. Yu Tingyuan's voice was icy. "Give me a reason not to kill you." "I still have use," he replied. "Great use." Yu Tingyuan sneered. "To bolster Yu Qian's power and bring trouble upon yourself?" Pei Jingqing laughed aloud. Turning to face her, he met her gaze with amusement. "I thought you differed from Yu Qian, but it seems your vision isn't much more far-reaching. Truth be told, among the imperial family, only the late imperial princess had the makings of a capable ruler. You dare mention my sister?" Yu Tingyuan's suppressed killing intent surged back. "Still convinced I murdered the imperial princess? Third princess, how long will you delude yourself? Your enemy was never me, it was His Majesty, the current emperor, your own father." Yu Tingyuan fell abruptly silent. Pei Jingqing smiled coldly, enunciating each word. "Your father reneged on the betrothal of half the empire and sought to eliminate the empress. Naturally, he wouldn't spare the imperial princess. Even without the aristocratic clans, your sister wouldn't have survived. Instead of fixating on causing me trouble, why not strike a deal? I give you what you desire, and you give me what I desire." Yu Tingyuan knew Pei Jingqing too well. This man possessed profound cunning and strategy. While others planned one step ahead, he saw 300 steps into the future. Making a deal with him meant certain defeat. No need to refuse so hastily. Hear what I can offer first, then decide. Yu Tingyuan's eyes flickered but once, yet Pei Jingqing saw through her completely. Her guard shot up instantly. Yu Tingyuan asked in a low voice, "Fine. Speak. What can you give me?" Pei Jingqing lowered his eyes, a faint smile playing on his lips as he spoke slowly. "I'll give you the Yin dynasty, the aristocratic clans, and my life." Even with her guard up, Yu Tingyuan froze in place. "And all I ask of you is one thing, the chance to walk beside her for the rest of my life. That is enough." Pei Jingqing finished with a smile. And, General above, I am mad. When Pei Jingqing was thrown into death row, the first to visit him was Yu Qian. By then, Yu Qian had already changed into princely robes and donned a crown. "Oh," Pei Jingqing tilted his head with a faint smile. "Congratulations, Your Highness, on your investiture." Yu Qian's expression darkened. He glared at Pei Jingqing. To be made a prince, exiled to a fiefdom, watched over by governors, prefects, and countless others. I wouldn't live a single day of that life. Then your highness must learn to grow accustomed to it, for such a life you shall endure for the rest of your days, Pei Jingqing replied with refined composure. Pei Jingqing. Yu Qian gripped the iron bars with fury, his voice laced with both hatred and defiance. Why? You would rather aid Third Imperial Sister, a mere woman, than assist this prince. Your highness is mistaken. I am not aiding the third princess. I am aiding only Ni Luo herself. Pei Jingqing's tone was matter of fact. For her? Only for her? This answer clearly did little to satisfy Yu Qian. Yet he knew that no matter how furious he raged, it would all be futile. He had not come here for such trivial matters, but for vengeance, to exact revenge for Pei Jingqing's betrayal. With this thought, Yu Qian flung his sleeves aside and snorted coldly. Do you truly believe sacrificing your life for Ni Luo will make her remember you forever? Let me tell you this, death extinguishes a flame. Once you're gone, countless beauties will throw themselves at her. She'll forget you in no time. And you're not just sacrificing your own life. The entire Pei clan will be dragged down with you. Their glory will be no more. Yu Qian finished, waiting to see Pei Jingqing's reaction. To his surprise, Pei Jingqing didn't flinch. Instead, he nodded in agreement. Your highness speaks truly. My death will surely bring ruin upon the Pei clan. But you are mistaken about one thing, the Pei clan's glory will not fade. A sinister smile spread across Pei Jingqing's porcelain-white face. The Pei family will be uprooted entirely, not a single leaf left behind. For, apart from this servant, there is no one else left in the main branch of the Pei family. Those collateral branches cling to me. With my death, they will be like headless flies easily crushed by the Empress. The Pei family will cease to exist from this day forward. Yu Qian paled in shock. How is that possible? A century-old family like the Peis, how could there be no direct descendants? Naturally, because I slaughtered them all clean, Pei Jingqing replied, his smile as delicate as a flower, his dark eyes icy cold. Yu Qian's heart lurched with horror, and he instinctively took a step back. He pointed at Pei Jingqing. You slaughtered the entire main branch of the Pei family. So your highness was unaware, Pei Jingqing sighed regretfully. It seems consort Pei never revealed the truth to you. Never mind. If she won't speak, I will. Pei Jingqing rose, his white robes trailing behind him, his fox fur cloak mesmerizing. I am not a direct descendant of the Pei family. I am a collateral branch sent to the imperial capital as a hostage to protect the legitimate bloodline. Your highness, do you know why all noble offspring must enter the imperial academy, yet you alone are exempt? Because the imperial academy is a cage. Those legitimate sons of noble houses are caged birds. Except for Niluo, she was not. She was free, the sunlight 3 shone beyond the cage. We fragile birds, bathed and soothed by her light, revered and loved her. The late emperor, plotting to kill the Empress Dowager, secretly allied with the noble houses. That is why I was able to return to Jiangnan early. On the day I left the capital, Niluo came to see me off. She gave me a pendant, our token of love. Oh, no matter how many others she gave it to, only the one shared with me truly matters. I was cast aside by the Pei clan, treated as a target at the academy. After much reflection, I concluded the most delightful thing in this world is basking in sunlight. Thus, those who might become obstacles in the future must be eliminated one by one. Within 3 years of returning to the Pei clan, I slaughtered all 6 legitimate sons of the Pei family. 2 years later, I sent away 13 sons and nephews as well. I arranged for them to reunite with their kin beneath the earth, not one more, not one less. Have I not been kind to them? He advanced step by step toward Yu Qian, who could only retreat step by step. Though a solid iron barrier still stood between them, Yu Qian felt a chill surge from the soles of his feet straight to the crown of his head. Your Highness. Your Highness. Realizing his voice trembled, Yu Qian pinched the flesh of his finger to pard, forcing his tone steady. I had thought you and I were kindred spirits, both driven by boundless ambition, both striving to rise above all others. Yet it turns out you are merely a madman. Pei Jingqing finished for him. After speaking, the exquisite features gradually faded, and the smiling voice grew cold and distant. Yet it was this madman who outmaneuvered the late emperor, outmaneuvered your highness, and even toyed with the empire itself. Ah, I forgot to inform you, the emperor's edict originally bore your name. In the death cell, the bloodthirsty, resentful name Pei Jingqing suddenly rang out. Immediately followed by uncontrollable laughter. How pointless. You all, some crave the throne, some chase ambition. I only wanted love. Only love. That was enough. The story ends here. Thank you all for your company. See you in the next chapter.